Thank you. Commissioner Kushney, can we test your audio and video, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Young. Can we test your video too, please?
Say it was again.
Oh, I just wanted to test your audio and video. I can see you now. Thank you.
Testing, testing, testing.
Are we supposed to be able to see everybody on this view right now?
No, there was a issue with people exposing themselves with the view, so we blanked out everybody. We'll allow the speaker, whoever the speaker is, to be present. It's 10 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to ask for a roll call, please. Is that Giselle?
Yes, it's me.
Thanks.
Okay, Chair Curtis,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrion,
Here.
Commissioner Aquino,
Here.
Commissioner Kushney,
Here.
Commissioner Kawada,
Here.
Commissioner McAdam,
I'm here.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
Here.
Commissioner Papalimu. I don't think I see her in here. Okay, excuse for now. Commissioner Young.
Here.
Okay, you have quorum, Chair.
We have a quorum. Approval of the written minutes of October 8th meeting. Would entertain a motion to approve.
Chair, I reviewed the written minutes and there's a few places where there's some things missing.
Okay, I'd like the minutes on the agenda, and we can make, or on the floor. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve, and then we can amend them on that motion. So first, I would entertain a motion to approve the written minutes of October 8th, 2024.
I can propose that motion.
So McAdam moved to approve the minutes of October 8th. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second. Well,
Thank you. Now, Ms. Aquino, you had some corrections?
Some additions, at some points in time, there were some occurrences that were not recorded.
For instance,
For instance, I didn't record the time, but it was sometime before the 10:35 time slot where Mr. Nago was asked by you and answered regarding the agenda item number 4. I think it was sometime after 12:48 p.m. in the minutes.
11:07 was the last that and 11:23 it was, we were adjourned. And these are for the minutes of October 8th.
I'm sorry. This is regarding December 18th. Right.
I got a point.
Apologies.
I got a question. Was there a letter sent in to the OIP on the sunshine law violation?
There were 2 sunshine law violations, and if a letter was sent, I referred to the written minutes and the recordation of as a response. I'm not sure. I'd have to go check on that one.
So following the meeting, there was,
We're
respond
talking
to
about the
the-
minutes of October 8th.
that's what I'm referring to, Chair.
Are there any amendments to that? I'm entertaining amendments to the minutes of October 8th. Hearing none, I would ask for a roll call vote to approve the minutes of October 8th.
Okay, Commissioner Andrian,
You're muted, Dylan. You're muted, Dylan. Hold a thumbs up for yes and a thumbs down for no. Okay. No for,
Okay. Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
No.
Commissioner Kawada,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdam,
Yes.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
Yes.
Commissioner Papalimu is excused, Commissioner Young,
Yes.
and Chair Curtis.
yes.
Okay,
So the minutes of October 8th were approved. Now we're on the minutes of December 18th. Would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 18th.
I move to amend the minutes, Chair.
Let's get the minutes on the agenda and then we can amend them. Would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 18th.
I move to approve.
Second,
Been moved and second to approve the minutes of October or December 18th. Are there any amendments
Yes, Chair.
or changes? Okay, Ralph,
So the end of item 4 should be item 5, and the topic was whether to request ballot box chain of custody documentation from the counties. The chair said that the only thing we can do with this item is rescind it. The chair said, I will entertain a motion to rescind ballot box chain of custody documentation from the counties. Commissioner Kushney made a motion to subpoena ballot box chain of custody from all the counties for the 2024 general election, including Dropbox and USPS collections. The motion was seconded by Commissioner Andrian. The chair stated that the motion was out of order and that Commissioner Kushney was not recognized, and that the chair would only entertain a motion to rescind requesting ballot box chain of custody documentation or go on to item 6. Commissioner Kushney stated the chair was violating Robert's Rules of Order 1.4A by not allowing full participation of members, and the chair was dictating what motion was to be made. A discussion ensued, and the chair had Commissioner Kushney removed for obstructing the agenda.
that was at what time, Ralph?
That was for item number 5.
5, okay.
I believe that was approximately 12:58 PM.
12:58. 1:16 was the time from the prior action. So I don't see the timing there. The second thing is in our investigations, I asked the Attorney General whether we had subpoena power. And the answer was no. I don't think, as I understand it, we don't have subpoena power. We don't have the authority to subpoena and require the attendance or the response. So what do you want to change here, Ralph?
Well,
What do
the point of it is that you were allowing only one motion to be made. And I made a different motion that you had asked for. I motioned to subpoena. And you said that I was out of order and that the only thing we could do was rescind asking the counties for the chain of custody documentation or move on. And then I said you were violating my rights under Rule 1.4A, and then you had me removed. The minutes are saying that I was repeatedly making motions, and that's not true. I made the motion once. You told me I only could make the motion you wanted or move on to item 6.
So you want recorded that you were removed from the meeting for obstructing the agenda? Was that?
I want it reported that you were only allowing one motion to be made, and that was to be rescinding the ballot box chain of custody from the counties. And when I made a different motion, which was to subpoena the information, you said I was out of order and that we were only going to entertain a motion to rescind or move on to item 6. And I said that you were violating rule number 1.4A by not allowing me to participate. We had a motion and a second on the floor. And that's what the meeting needs to, the minutes need to reflect. That is the true reflection of what happened.
So how would you word that to amend the minutes?
I just read it, what I said, so I can send this in.
So is that a motion to amend the minutes?
Yes,
Amend or change it?
yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
Yes, Chair.
Go ahead.
So we're voting on, I support this because we've been voting, the commission has been voting to change the minutes of what is really happening. The statutes say that the meeting minutes or to reflect accurately what happened in the meeting. So somebody can't be required to go look at the video for 3 hours or 4 hours, whatever it is, that they can read the minutes and get a true reflection of what happened. And I'm just asking to have a true reflection of what happened in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion?
Chair, are we dealing every addition separately? Because I have several I wanted to make note of.
Yeah, each amendment is discussed separately. Is there any other discussion on Ralph's motion to amend or change the minutes? We'd entertain a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kawada,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
No.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
No.
Commissioner Papalimu, still excused, Commissioner Young,
No.
Chair Curtis.
Motion. Ms. Aquino, what changes did you, or additions did you have to the minutes?
Okay, it was approximately sometime before 10:35 where Mr. Nago was asked by you to answer that question regarding the opinion of the Deputy Attorney General. That was not included in the written minutes. It is shown in the recording, but as Mr. Commissioner Kushney has said, why would we require interested persons to go through all of the video when they can view it in the written minutes? So I would want to add the fact that you asked Mr. Nago, you were asked his opinion about that item number 4, and he answered it, but it's not reflected in the minutes. And there's several other places, but you saying we're treating everyone separately.
Each amendment or change, yes, I'd like to address individually from these written minutes. So item 4, what did you want to add or subtract from item 4?
To add Mr. Nago's response to your question, to reflect that in the minutes.
And the question was,
his opinion on whether, let me see.
is it for the chief election officer?
Whether he has the authority to change the voting method from mail in to day of in-person voting. And he answered no, but it doesn't reflect that in the minutes.
Okay, so the first paragraph of item 4 of the minutes of December says whether to request the Deputy Attorney General to give an opinion on whether the chief election officer has the authority to change the voting method from mail-in to day of in-person voting at the precinct with voter ID. The question was asked of Mr. Nago, and he responded no. So that would be your addition to the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. You got that, Giselle?
Yes, I got it.
I'd like to
I need a second. I need a second for that.
second,
Thank you. Discussion.
just share.
Yes, go ahead.
So chapter 92-9 in the minutes says, minutes shall give a true reflection of the meetings, of the matters discussed at the meeting and the views of the participants. So what the commission is voting on is not to have a true reflection because it doesn't meet their opinion. So the opinions are different from what really happened. And they may be against something happening, but if it happened in the meeting, it needs to be reflected in the minutes. And for my case, you just voted to not have the true reflection of what happened in the meeting. And you can go back and listen to the recording, and as Ms. Aquino is saying, go back and listen to the recording, but we're asking for a true reflection of what happened in the meeting, and that should be a simple yes. Thank you.
Thank you. We're discussing Ms. Aquino's motion to include Scott Nago's opinion in the answer of item 4. Is there any other discussion?
Can we hear any opposition discussion if there are interested parties that are going to be voting against this? I'd like to hear their insight as to why.
I have,
Otherwise, we'll all be voting yes, it sounds like.
that's why we take a vote. The motion is to amend,
Chair, excuse me,
add the
Chair.
minutes. The motion is to add add to the minutes that Scott Nago was asked this question, item 4, and his response was no. He does not have the authority to change the voting method from mail-in to day of.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
if there are no votes, those of us who express yes votes would appreciate the commissioner's reasons for voting no, not just a no, but explain why they're voting no.
Thank you for your request. Is there any other discussion on this motion? Ask for a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Andreon,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes,
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kuwata,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdam,
Yes.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Sorry, I'm muted. Yes.
Chair Curtis.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other amendments or changes to the minutes of December 18th?
yes, Chair.
Yes, ma'am. What
I'm
item
sorry,
are you
Chris.
addressing?
There's so many here. I'm trying to limit my additions. Hold on just a minute. At 12:45 p.m., U.S. Chair offered to skip over items 4 through 9. And at that point, this is when Commissioner Papalima's motion was not noted in the minutes, which included Mr. Kushney's comments on the Roberts Rules of Order. So I would like Office of Elections to include her motion, which was not noted at that point in time.
So what specific part of these minutes are you addressing? So I see Ms. Papalimo made a motion to reiterate item 5 to get it passed in a legal meeting, but the motion died for lack of a second. I show that at 118. What other motions did she make that? What was the motion?
It was around 12:45 p.m.
Okay,
It was just before I made the motion to rescind the request. But her motion at that point in time was not noted in the written minutes, nor the discussion.
I show a motion that wasn't seconded. I don't see a motion that was seconded and discussed.
Well, why would it not be noted, even though it wasn't seconded? It should be shown in the minutes.
There was one at 118. Well, excuse me.
No, that's way before 118. That's approximately at 12:45 p.m.
I show time up to 114 on page 7. And then the individual testimonies. I don't see the timing on that. I see Commissioner Papalino joined the meeting at 11:18. I don't show anything I don't show it on the minutes. What motion did she make? And then
It's
what-
not shown in the minutes, but it is recorded in the video. That's my point.
Okay,
It's in the video, but not recorded in the written minutes.
and it was died for lack of a second, or was it voted down?
I did not read the specifics, but I just wanted it included in the written minutes.
And that was at what time?
Approximately 12:45 p.m. It was in between your offer to skip over items 4 through 9 and before my motion to rescind the request for the Deputy Attorney General to give an opinion.
That
It's
was,
on page 6. On page 6, the bottom.
okay, I got page 2, 1248 is when we were motioned, or the 1248 was the request from the Deputy Attorney General to give an opinion regarding that we just discussed. I don't,
Yes, my point is, Chair, it's not shown in the minutes, but it is in the video.
okay, and that was at 12:45.
Between 12:45 p.m. and 12:58 p.m., sometime between that.
Yeah, I show 12:48 as the discussion on whether to request the Deputy Attorney General. We'd have to look at unless you had specific language. And Papolino had a motion that died for a lack of a second. Understand? Is that right?
I believe so, but that
Okay.
should be reflected in the written minutes.
Concur. We'll ask that be added if this motion passes, but I don't know how come or where that didn't get picked up. So is that a motion to add that to the minutes?
Yes, please.
And
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Chair.
I'll vote no on this, and presumably the additional efforts to amend the minutes. The meetings are already 4 or 5 hours long. We're at 23 minutes in, and we're discussing details in more time than those details actually were discussed at first. I think it's tremendously inefficient to be doing things this way, and I would ask that in the future, for any proposed amendments to the minutes, that those be set ahead of time, both for efficiency purposes and so that we can actually go back individually and view the video to see if the proposed amendment accurately reflects what is shown on the video. So while, of course, any motion can be made in this regard, I'm going to object to further efforts to amend the minutes in real time rather than giving us all the opportunity to review things ahead of time.
Thank you. Other discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Ralph.
I'd like to add on to Commissioner Osterkamp's. We made a motion to share all the correspondence with the commission.
The motion on the floor is regarding these
I'm-
minutes.
I'm for it, and this is why. We made a motion to share it out. So what Commissioner Osterkamp is asking is that we send in the minute corrections ahead of time. And I have been doing that, but my minute corrections do not get sent to the other commissioners. And I do not get a reply that I even sent something in to the commission. So I think Commissioner Osterkamp's suggestion is really good, but in actuality, those letters do not get sent out, and they're not sent to the commissioners, and I don't even get a reply that anybody got it. So we need to change how the commission conducts business. In the meantime, this is what we're left to. And so I am for her motion, and this has been created by the chair and the deputy attorney general, and this needs to be undone. And we need to get correspondence to the commissioners. If I send something to the county of Kauai to council members, it immediately goes to their emails and it is posted on site. And we should be able to do the same thing. Anyone should be able to send anything to the commissioner and we should get it in real time. And that's not happening. So I am for Commissioner Aquino's motion, and this is the way we have to do it because this is what we've been forced to do. Thank you.
Communicating with 3 or more commissioners is against the Sunshine Law. I cannot forward, I've been told that I cannot forward correspondence to the whole commission, even though it's public record. I tried to get the attachments, the package to be cumulative added that's posted on the website to be available to the public and the commission. We cannot forward one letter to all the commissioners without Sunshine Law violation. So the motion on the floor is to add the 1245.
Chair, I'd like to
Motion.
add one more comment, please.
The motion on the floor is to add the 1245 motion that was failed for lack of a second from Ms. Papalimu. Is there any other discussion on this amendment?
Yes, Chair.
On this amendment, yes, Ralph.
So to the point of being able to send this stuff in, there are other commissions and councils that are doing this. So I think
That's not the topic we're talking about. We're
Well,
talking
you
about the
just-
motion made by Ms. Aquino regarding adding the one specific motion that Ms. Papalimu made. That's what we're discussing
yes, Chair, I'm discussing that very thing.
on the amendment
You made a comment.
regarding Papalimu's motion. I would entertain a roll call on this motion to amend these minutes of December 18th.
Okay, Commissioner Adrian,
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes,
Commissioner Kawada,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
No.
Commissioner Osterkamp.
No.
Commissioner Papalimu did notify our office that she will not be attending today. With that said, Commissioner Young
No.
and Chair Curtis.
No.
Chair Curtis, may I make a request or ask for, so if we as commission members find voids or things that need to be corrected, can we submit that to the Office of Elections prior to the meeting so they can address these concerns?
Yes, that was Ralph's suggestion, and I concur 100%. If we could make it part of the meeting package, that would be most efficient, as Mr. Osterkamp mentioned.
Chair, I'd like to be
Not
recognized.
the meeting, I'm sorry,
Ms.
not the
Aquino?
meeting package, but can we email to the Office of Elections items that we think need to be added or corrected before the meeting happens so they can go in and address the minutes before it's presented to us again?
Yeah. Yes, and subject to Mr. Nago's staff, that can be accomplished to correct the minutes prior to presentation and approval by this commission. Yes, please. That's what Mr. Osterkamp recommended.
Also, Chair, can we request that those minutes be submitted to us way in advance of the Sunshine Law so we have time to review the written minutes and compare it with the recording? What we've been presented doesn't give us enough time to do this in a timely manner.
Ralph, you had something?
Yes, Chair. So when I send items in, I do not get a response. And I would like to ask if the staff can respond to the emails that are sent in and acknowledge and then let us know what the status is of the email if it's being acted on or not. Those things tend to just disappear. I have a ton of correspondence that never gets forwarded on to the commission. And under 11 or HAR 3-170.
Let me stop you right there, and we'll forward this request to the chief election officer. On the floor now is the approval of the minutes of December 18th. Any other discussion on those minutes? Ms. Aquino, did you have anything else?
No, I don't think I have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Would ask for a roll call on the approval of the minutes of December 18th.
Okay, and I just want to confirm, that motion was by Commissioner McAdam and seconded by, is Commissioner Young, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
No.
Commissioner Kawada,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdam,
Yes.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
Yes.
Commissioner Papadimou's excused, Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Curtis.
Yes. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to receive the communications and correspondence for the public record.
Chair, I'd like to discuss the communications and correspondence.
I'd entertain a motion on the floor first.
So moved.
The motion to receive the communications and correspondence for the record has been made by Mr. Young. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Kawada seconded that?
Yes.
Okay. It's been moved and second to receive the communications and correspondence for the record. Discussion.
Yes, Chair. Can we take them one at a time?
Not according to this motion, but you can move to amend that, yes?
Will we be discussing these one at a time?
No, we'll be receiving them for the record as public testimony.
Yeah, my discussion is, I'd like to discuss each one of these letters as we go through it. And not just bury them, because that's what happens is you bury them and we don't even know if the commissioners read them. But in Ms. McKay's letter, she's asking about transparency. And I would like to point out that Scott Nago has 3 rings of defense of transparency. His inner ring is his personal attorney, Aaron Schulaner, working in the Office of Elections as General Counsel. His middle ring is the Deputy Attorney General's office as his defense attorney. And also the Deputy Attorney that is assigned to the commission seems to be working on Mr. Nago's behalf. Also, in the outer ring are 5 commissioners who always vote to not have transparency. And the public is asking for transparency and we're not giving it to them. So those 3 rings of defense around Mr. Nago and getting the public is getting frustrated and would like to have transparency. Ms. Loranik's email, I just asked that the testifiers be respectful to others during the testimony and please do not dox anyone. Mr. Chang's, I'd like to make a motion on Mr. Chang's. He spoke about the parliamentary rules not being followed correctly. And I'd like to have a motion to have a parliamentarian officiate these meetings because a lot of people think it's not being done properly.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
If Mr. Kushney has a amendment to make to the motion before the body, he should make it.
That's correct.
I move to discuss.
The motion on the floor is to receive the communications and correspondence.
And I amended.
To amend that?
I'd like to amend it to discuss, receive and discuss.
Is there a second?
Second.
That's an amendment to the motion to receive the communication and correspondence for the record. It's to add a discussion to each of these items. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes,
On the amendment to the motion to receive, I would entertain discussion on the move to discuss.
yes, Chair.
Chair.
Go ahead, Dylan.
No,
Mr.
I think this is very important. We have members of the public who are submitting correspondence to us. I don't see why we wouldn't take our job seriously as commissioners to discuss these items, as Commissioner Kushney has pointed out we should be doing. So I'm in favor of the motion to amend, and if there is any opposition to it, I'd like to know exactly why that would be that we would not discuss these items. Thank you, Chair.
Additional discussion?
I would like to hear from anyone who's going to vote no. If not, I would like to support this also.
Are we voting
You're out of order.
to discuss it?
Anyone want to address the amendment to discuss the communication and correspondence in addition to receiving it? We don't discuss individual testimony. This is testimony, written testimony. We don't discuss very often the people that address us with personal testimony.
We
We don't
should,
discuss it
Chair.
then, and I don't think we need to discuss it here. It's for the record. We may not agree or disagree with it, but if there are issues here, we can bring those up prompted by this, but discussing every written communication is like discussing every oral communication. And I don't think it's necessarily appropriate. Dylan.
Chair, I just want to add, that I know in this setting, we haven't done discussion with public testimony. I've been a part of other boards and commission where the chair will allow us commissioners to even ask and engage with the public as they're giving testimonies. And so it's very interesting to me that we don't do it in this commission. I think we should. And in our history of this commission, these are the things that we have discussed, is when Commissioner Kushney will point out that there's correspondence that has been submitted and we end up breaking it down. That unfortunately has been the only time in the history of our commission that we've engaged with the public, because for whatever reason, you're not allowing us to do that during the public testimony time. So I would appreciate for us to do this. I think that it's very quick. I think the people who turn this in would appreciate us doing that as well. Like I said, this is abnormal to the other boards and commissions that I've been a part of.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment to receive, to add, discuss?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
I'm in favor of this because one of the items on here that I have is the status of motions. And we pass motions and then nothing is acted on it. And again, the public is getting frustrated because there's no action taken on it. And the commission made a motion to have status of motions on all future agendas. And you have not put it on there. So you're directly going after you're not carrying out what the commission has already passed. And as well, the commissioners had asked that you send us your correspondence pertaining to commission business, and you have not done that either. And I FOIA'd your communication and it's coming back redacted, and we need to discuss these issues, because if you've got redacted communication, that means you're not acting in the benefit of the public. If you have to hide from the public what you are doing, you and the Deputy Attorney General, Scott Nago, and the Secretary are on a conversation that's redacted, you're not acting in the benefit of the public. And those are things that need to be aired in this commission. And right now, by us not bringing these things up and the letters that are written in, the commission is for the public to air their grievances. And then we're supposed to investigate that. If you just simply bury all of their grievances, then what's the purpose of this commission? Why are we here? And I asked the others, why are we here? You're just the third outer ring, keeping transparency away from our elections. And that's what's happening. So I urge all the commissioners these are pertinent topics to be discussed, and please vote yes. Thank you.
Other discussion on the amendment to add discussion to the receive of the communications correspondence.
Yes, Chair.
Yes,
So to quote one of the received emails, it begins, "To the egregiously corrupt State of Hawaii Office of Elections Commission corrupt chair," and then it names 5 of us and goes on to accuse commissioners of systematic corruption and fraud, etc. Now, it's bad enough that these types of documents are being submitted and received, but to add the requirement that we discuss nonsense of that sort is not only a waste of everybody's time, but it's completely anathema to Robert's Rules of Order. To quote Article 7, Section 43, quote, "It is not allowable to arraign the motives of a member, but the nature or consequences of a measure may be condemned in strong terms. It is not the man, but the measure that is the subject of debate." Now, we have repeated statements from the public that very much arraign the motives of 5 of us on this commission. And we sit here and we listen to it, we take it all in, but to add discussion of this kind of stuff, it simply is not in accord with Robert's Rules of Order, and it's not in accord with the good faith basis of this commission. So I'm going to vote no.
thank you. Other discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Ask for a roll call,
Yes, Chair. I'd like to discuss one more time, please.
3 minutes. Ralph,
So thank you, Chair. So to add to that, and I'm just appealing to the rest of the commissioners. The public is asking us to have an open book and to look at things. If it's not transparent, it's not credible. And what the public is seeing is that there are 5 that vote no on all transparency efforts. We've got issues in here like chain of custody. We have received no chain of custody. And the commission is probably going to try to bury this. None of the counties have reported chain of custody. The chain of custody has not been reconciled with the numbers that are coming out of the state reports. And there's huge discrepancies. And for you guys to bury this it's going against everything the commission is supposed to be doing. And again, I ask, why sit here and be on the commission and take that abuse? How about let's open it up and let's do some investigations, especially into chain of custody. And I don't know when we're going to discuss it, but the public wants transparency in the elections. And when you vote no on everything, nothing to see here, no transparency, you lose the respect and the faith of the public. So let's look into some of these items because they're worth looking into. Thank you.
thank you. Other discussion? Would ask for a roll call on the amendment of the motion to add discussion to the receive communications and correspondence. This is to the amendment.
Okay, Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kuwata,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
No.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
No.
Commissioner Papaliko is excused, Commissioner Young,
No.
Chair Curtis.
No. Motion died. I'll point out that communications and correspondences in addition to the agenda that I added to include the publication and public record of this correspondence. Go to the main motion to receive the communications and correspondence. Discussion.
I'm going to vote no for
Makes
the
it-
reasons stated before.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Receive it is for the sake of transparency and making it a part of the public record, similar to what I saw in the Kauai County Council, receiving the correspondence and communication and publishing it, making it a part of the public record. All those in favor of receiving the communications and correspondence?
I thought we were doing discussion, Chair.
We discussed the amendment. We can discuss the motion to receive it, which will make it a part of the public record or not. The motion is to receive the communications and correspondence. Do you have any discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm in favor of receiving the correspondence. But what do we do with the motions that the commission made? Like the motion to have status of motions?
That's a
On
different
the-
question.
So what,
Not part of this correspondence and communication received.
where do we address that and why is it not on the meeting minutes like we voted for?
Any other discussion on receiving the communication and correspondence?
Chair, I agree with Commissioner Kushner's question. When do we act upon these issues that are received through correspondence? When is that addressed?
Mr. Chairman, point of order, this discussion is not germane to the motion before the body.
Concur. Ask for a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushni,
Yes.
Commissioner Kawada,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdam,
yes,
Commissioner Osterkamp,
No,
Commissioner Papalimou is excused, Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Curtis.
Yes. Discussion and decision-making on response to the Sunshine Law complaint. That's 2507. My response would be to refer to the public record that's already existing, including the video, especially the video. That's the information that the Office of Information Practices was requesting. And that would be my response, is the
Could
information
you-
you're requesting is a matter of public record.
Chair, could you explain to everyone what the complaint is, please?
Please go ahead. It was your complaint, Ralph. What was the complaint? The Office of Information Practices. There was one 2 times ago regarding the URL for the Zoom. That's still pending. And this is a new one regarding what, Ralph?
The fact that we're voting on meeting minutes that do not reflect what happened in the meeting. And I'm going to read chapter 92.
Could you read the complaint?
Yeah, give me a second. Let me find it.
We have an Attorney General here, yeah?
Yes,
Yes, Chair.
Mr. Leong, you've had a chance to look at this complaint?
Yes, Chair.
Could you share the substance of it?
So, so the complaint from Commissioner Kushni asks whether the Elections Commission violated the Sunshine Law by approving the minutes for the August 27, 2024 meeting, and in doing so, excluding advice given by Deputy Attorney General Brian Yee from those approved minutes. So Commissioner Kushni asked whether the approved minutes were a true reflection of the matters discussed at the meeting and the views of the participants as required by HRS section 92-9A. And that's basically the substance of it. OIP requires the Elections Commission to provide the agendas and minutes and meeting recordings for the August 27 and December 18 meetings. So there's no discussion required about that. That's just required to be provided. And the OIP also requests the election commission to provide justification for the actions taken regarding the minutes of the August 27 meeting, or any additional information for OIP to consider.
Thank you.
So Chair, I'd like to read what 92.9 says. It says that the meeting minutes shall give a true reflection of the matters discussed at the meeting and the views of the participants. When the Deputy Attorney General's office is participating in the meeting and their advice to the commission is directly affecting how the meeting is conducting business, that needs to be reflected in the meetings. And right now, the commission has voted not to reflect the Deputy Attorney General's advice to the commission. And so that leaves out a whole bunch of substance, and we're violating the Sunshine Law. The commission is violating the Sunshine Law by voting to leave those things out of the meeting, just like we did in this meeting. We just voted to leave the true reflection of what happened out.
Thank you. So with the OIP complaint, I would suggest that we share the information that's already public record, the agenda, the minutes, the draft minutes, then the recording. That's already available to them, and we can let them decide this issue because the complaint is in front of them. The other thing about this is that OIP is backed up and you might get a response in a year or two. So what do you want to do with this?
Well, Chair, I would say, let's look at what I wrote in there. It's a true reflection of what had happened in the meeting and correct the minutes the way it went down. And then it's taken off the table.
We're talking about the complaint. And the complaint is that the minutes aren't complete, essentially. And we can either leave it up to the Office of Information Practices, or we can try to improve our recording performance compliant with Ralph's wishes.
It has nothing to do with me.
Is there any motion regarding the OIP complaint?
Yes, Chair, I move to address the OIP complaint and to correct the minutes as was previously recommended.
This is a second.
There a second? Okay,
Second, Commissioner Andrew.
So it was moved to comply with Ralph's complaint and correct the minutes, essentially. Is that what you just said, Ralph? Is that the motion?
The motion is to correct the minutes as previously discussed and turn that back into the OIP with the true reflection of what happened.
And there was a second, Dylan. Discussion.
Yes, Chair.
Go ahead.
Again, what Commissioner Osterkamp said, this shouldn't be about people and their views. It just simply says that it should have a true reflection of what happened in the meeting. And if the attorney is giving the commission advice, that is pertinent to what happened in the meeting.
So,
And that's all I'm asking for, is for that to be in the meeting minutes. Thank you.
And any other discussion? Would ask for a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Andrian,
yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushni,
Ralph?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuwata,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
No.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
No.
Commissioner Papalimou is excused, Commissioner Young,
No.
Chair Curtis.
No. For a point of record, those minutes were just approved. The next order of business is performance evaluate, or I'm sorry. I'd like to open public comment right now regarding the performance and evaluation of the salary adjustment of chief election officer and the biannual report of elections. If you have any issues to take to the legislature, I'd entertain testimony, and I'd entertain testimony on the performance evaluation and consideration of salary adjustment of the chief election officer. And we have several hands up. Giselle, could you herd these guys one at a time?
Yes, first, if you would like to testify, please click raise hand under reactions on Zoom. If you are joining us by phone, press *9. When recognized, please unmute your microphone before speaking. You may also turn on your video at this time. For the record, please state your first and last name and the items you will be testifying on. To ensure that we will have sufficient time to hear all testimony, each testifier will have 3 minutes to testify. Once your time has expired, you will be asked to conclude your remarks. The first testifier is Andy Crossland, followed by Jamie Detweiler.
Aloha Commission.
Aloha.
I'm testifying today on the performance evaluation of Scott Nago. This has been an ongoing issue for a number of years now. So for everybody that's been on the commission for longer than Mr. Young and Mr. Osterkamp, they would be very aware of the malfeasance that has been perpetrated by Scott Nago. I will attempt to give a brief summary of some of those things here in my testimony today. So, basically what we've got is that Scott Nago is constantly inverting the hierarchy of the Office of Elections, the Elections Commission, and the counties. What is really the correct hierarchy of the system is that the Elections Commission is up top, and to be very clear, this is in the Hawaii Revised Statutes. The Elections Commission is up top, then the Chief Election Officer, then the Office of Election, and then the counties. And so this is very clear when it states in the Hawaii Revised Statutes that the Chief Election Officer is an employee of the commission. So what that means is that any advice that is given by the commission to the chief election officer is given as the chief election officer, as the employee of the the Elections Commission. And so there has been numerous advice that has been given by the Elections Commission to your employee, Scott Nago, to take certain very specific actions, such as the Elections Commission made a motion and approved overwhelmingly to not accept Hawaii into the ERIC program, the Electronic Registration Information, whatever the C stands for. But anyway, even the chair, Mike Curtis, supported that. And Scott Nago even went to the legislature and was deliberately and knowingly insubordinate to the Elections Commission, and even testified to the legislature that he supported us joining ERIC. So that is just one example of very many examples of Scott Nago being insubordinate to this Elections Commission. And so I also want to just help everybody understand that the Elections Commission is a very important role. All the commissioners here, you have a very important role, and you have been entrusted with the security and the administration of our elections. And you do advise the Chief Election Officer, Scott Nago, but that advice, let me be clear again, is as his employer. And so what I would like to see today is for the commissioners to take a motion, in addition to an extremely poor evaluation of his performance. I would like them to take a motion to fire Scott Nago and immediately start advertising and interviewing for his replacement. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Crossland.
Okay, the next testifier is Jamie Detweiler, followed by Chris Neff.
Ms. Detweiler.
Aloha, Chair and Commission. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. I had planned to testify on another agenda item first, but I'll go ahead and state my reasons why Scott Nago should no longer be in that position of responsibility. I'm going to cite HAR 3-177 3-453, which is Accountability and Security of Ballots, HAR 3-17761, Security of Ballots and Election Supplies, as well as HAR 3-177-453, Accountability and Security of Ballots. So I was an official election observer this past primary and general election. And while these observations took place at the Signature Verification Center, which is run and managed by the county elections, the Chief Elections Officer of the state has oversight and responsibility for each county. There's been some reply and response that, well, the county does their own thing and then the state does their own thing. Putting forth this perception that the state and county are separate. But the Chief Elections Officer of the state is responsible for overseeing the operations of the county centers. I observed at the Signature Verification Center, I was there on 2 separate occasions. The ballots coming in from drop boxes, I asked if there was a chain of custody document showing how many ballots were picked up at each. And I was told by Mr. Rex Quidila at the Signature Verification Center is that they don't have time or the manpower to do that count, which lends to, not accountability. So the lack of security for the ballots. On another occasion, I was there as an official election observer to witness the transport of the ballots. And we observe mail trays with envelopes in them. And when I asked how many envelopes total, ballot envelopes, I was told that we only had to verify the number of trays. Each tray didn't have the same amount of ballots. So we were told to just sign and witness the number of mail trays. That is inaccurate. And again, leaves another unsecurity of the ballots. So for those reasons and many others that I have cited at previous Elections Commission meeting, Mr. Nago should not hold that responsibility, and I would give him a performance rating of poor. I yield.
Thank you, Ms. Detweiler.
The next testifier is Chris Neff, followed by Nolan Chang.
Mr. Neff. Mr. Neff.
Thank you. Like Ms. Detweiler, I was prepared to discuss 2 topics. My concern about election consequences and also performance. Since you've established this, I had 6 slides put together. I'll go to slide number 5 in my slide deck, which I'm trying to get projected to you. Are you able to see that?
No, sorry.
Okay, well, since I'm sure you all have an opportunity to have pulled my file down, slide number 5 had a title, Provide Secure, Accessible, and Convenient Election Services to All Citizens Statewide. I'm sure everyone on this meeting recognizes that as the mission statement for the Office of Commissions, or Office of Elections. And as such, from my perspective, performance criteria should be based on the mission statement. I find the words secure, accessible, convenient, and all citizens to be the most important in the mission statement. And as such, my assessment is based on those 4 elements of the mission statement. When I look at performance criteria, one of the things that disturbed me about the December meeting was you went around the horn and asked each of the commissioners to assess Scott Nago's performance, and you asked him for self-performance. And what I heard was subjective opinion as opposed to objective make. My opinion is that as you look at performance and evaluation, it should be based on objectives and not on subjective opinion. Now, I have on this file a list of things that I would be most interested in from an objective perspective. The cost of the election, the number of votes versus the goal that we had established for the number of votes, the results within 24 hours, irregularities identified, investigations initiated, issue resolution within 30 days, and standards met. Those are the basic criteria that I think as a citizen of the state and even the government should be interested in trying to achieve. My sixth slide is my takeaway slide as it relates to my vote on the Office of Elections. First of all, I would say missing from my ability to do an effective objective evaluation is information about the accuracy of the process, the vetting of the candidates, the statistics promulgation. Things that I believe are important are total state of Hawaii population, total number of eligible legal voters, registered voters, eligible versus regular age. So we're identifying how many people chose not to register that were eligible, how many votes were deleted or adjusted, ballots printed, ballots distributed, ballots not distributed, ballots voted, ballots rejected, ballots soiled, ballots destroyed, and ballots not distributed. A collection of those would allow an auditor to get to the bottom of whether or not we truly had an accurate record. Now, with regard to my vote, if we are based on mission, my mission assessment, going back to those same 4 items, secure. I don't know what secure means.
Thank you, Mr. Neff.
I don't know what that is. So I'm not going to vote based on secure, but I will say accessibility, based on my observations, I'll give you a grade of C.
Thank you, Mr. Neff. The next testifier, please.
The next testifier is Nolan Chang, followed by Lee Trent.
Mr. Chang.
Good morning, Mr. Curtis and
Morning,
members of the
sir.
board. My name is Nolan Chang. I'm the Hawaii Republican Party National Committeeman. My testimony today specifically focuses on the 2024 Kauai election. In 2024, chain of custody was a critical issue discussed by your board 3 or 4 times throughout the year. During the November election, not one of our counties adhered to the chain of custody rules in accordance with HAR 3 TAC 177 TAC 453. The lack of chain of custody resulting in an initial overage of more than 3,000 ballots counted by the state compared to Kauai County. And then I heard there were 19,000 ballots counted by the state compared to Hawaii Island, which is a huge discrepancy. The Office of Elections violated countless numbers of their own rules. For example, Rule 11 TAC 96, records of prima facie evidence. Hawaii Supreme Court ruled that Kauai chain of custody was not prima facie evidence. Therefore, there is no chain of custody. The validity and accuracy of the Kauai election results must be questioned. Violation of Rule 11 TAC 98, forms and materials used in elections. There is no standard form for counties to collect ballots in drop boxes or the post office. This is a lack of fundamental inventory control. Violation of Rule 11 TAC 108, counting of mail-in ballots. Signature verification was not conducted in the presence of official observers. Violation of Rule 16 TAC 43, the procedure for ensuring the security of a container used to store or transport ballots, voter verifiable paper audit trails, vote data storage media, and other sensitive election materials shall be as follows. 1, made of suitable materials to prevent breakage. 2, securable using non-reusable seals. A record shall be maintained to list the seals used to secure such containers and to provide an accurate chronological posting of seals used during the opening and closing of each container. Election officials shall make periodic checks of the seals on such containers. On Kauai, ballots transferred from the county of Kauai to the state county center were transported in unsealed cardboard trays with envelopes exposed on each end of the trays. Violation of Rule 1643. The chief election officer or designated representative shall maintain a complete count of marked sense ballots. All ballots shall be safeguarded to prevent mishandling or misuse. Not one county has provided any records to comply with this rule. Rule 1643, Section 3, TAC 177, TAC 505. And I'm going to wrap this up in 10 seconds. Voter Service Center watchers. Mr. Ralph Cushney reported violations and was threatened to be removed from the counting center. Not one of his issues were addressed. So in conclusion, board members, I'm asking the Election Commission Board to, one, follow the rules of the Office of Elections to adhere to your chain of custody process. 2, we want to see your transfer documents. 3, we want you to count the ballot envelopes and compare it to the final ballot count. 4, we want strict adherence to your own inventory control rules. And regarding Mr. Nago's performance evaluation, I want you to ask the thousands of people who on November 5th were waiting for hours in line in the rain what they think about Mr. Nago's job performance. Mahalo nui for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chang.
The next testifier is Lee Trent, followed by Electra.
Lee Trent. I see Lee Trent, but you're muted.
Hi, sorry. I just put my hand down. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the some of the committee members that are for the people. It's obviously just watching this video who is actually working for the people, because we are the people, the 3 people that I see here on here that are representing for the people. You are representing us, so I thank you so much. It's Ralph Cushney, Anita Aquino, and Dylan. Thank you so much, because it's obvious that you are taking your job seriously and taking us seriously. So thank you so much for representing the people. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ms. Trent.
The next testifier is Electra, followed by Gary Cordery.
Electra, could you state your full name?
Yes, my name is Jennifer Hunt.
Thank you.
Yes, I believe that I was going to mention the violation of rule by Scott Nago of HAR 3-177453. It has been addressed here already a couple of times. I am asked for the chain of custody documents many times for the county of Maui. I asked via email. I made myself clear when it was not clear, the deputy clerk telling me that the daily totals were published on Instagram, and I then had to reply. What I was really looking for was the chain of custody that showed things like the sign off, the numbers of ballots being picked up and so on, just like other people have testified here about. And I was ignored. I put in a UIPA request for it, and it still has not been addressed. The problem here is a lack of transparency, and we know this is one example. We know that the lack of transparency leads to various people being suspicious of a process. And we also here on Maui we were not allowed to view the signature verification process. So in the chain of custody documents, HAR Part B, it talks about the clerk maintaining the current count of all marksman's ballots issued, spoiled, and received in their county. And so my question would be then, when those ballots come in through the signature verification, what happens to those ballots that are maybe they scan them and the people already voted in person or whatever? We don't have any chain of custody on these things. And so there's no transparency here. When I asked to be able to view this signature verification process, I was told that we don't have that. But here HRS 11-154 states that records, etc., disposition. The voted ballots shall be kept secure and handled only in the presence of representatives not of the same party or official observers. So the official observers are asking for this information. The people, whether they're official observers or not, should be able to have this information. HAR is clear when it says that the chief election officer is responsible to have these forms to maintain the complete count, and the clerks shall use these forms. It's a very simple thing to give the public copies of these forms so they can track along with the ballots. The fact that they don't have them or they're not disclosing them to the public tells me a lot. It tells me that there's no transparency in our elections. They're not secure. They're not transparent. They're not, nobody, it's very suspicious, and nobody who's paying attention to it believes the numbers that are coming out for the election because of this. It'd be a very simple process to reverse that attitude or that mentality that people have about it with transparency. It's clear to me that this board, a few members on this board, don't really care about that because they always vote no, and why they vote no, they won't say. Mr. Osterkamp said something about the grievances and public not being able to hear these grievances. Well, these grievances are actually from the public and not from the fellow members of the board. So they should be heard by this board because that is why this board is here. It's the interchange between the public and the elections. And so this board is responsible for hearing the grievances of the public.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt.
Whether on paper or whether in this testimony as we are doing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt.
The next testifier is Gary Cordery, followed by Rye.
Mr. Cordery, you're muted.
Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you. I just want to testify on Scott Nago's performance. This evaluation process by the Office of Elections is very important. And I wanted to pose a question, and then I have 4 points. One, there must be some type of a review, an accurate performance criteria to determine whether or not Mr. Nago is doing an effective job, whether he should receive some kind of a salary increase, or should he actually be relieved of his duties in its entirety? And the 4 points that I would like to make are: one, Scott Nago required and changed the Hawaii's voting process using COVID as an excuse to go away from the in-person single day county by county ballot process to an all mail-in election process. His purpose and reason for doing so was, one, it would cost less money. It was going to save the state money. Well, as it turns out, that has not happened. The cost of elections has continued to increase each electoral turn. So that hasn't happened. That's not so. Secondly, he said that the election process itself would be more thorough and you'd have a greater turnout and higher voter participation. That has also not happened. On the contrary, voter participation has gone down. There is more apathy, more suspicion, and less participation by the general public. So that second reason to go to mail-in voting has also failed. Third, Scott Nago said that the mail-in voting process would be accurate, it would be secure, and it would be safe. The fact that we have these commission meetings that continually and redundantly call to question the authenticity, accuracy, and safety of the ballot process reveals that has not happened. And then finally, Mr. Nago included Hawaii and Eric. I'm not sure about, I have no idea about what his purpose was for that. But once again, it takes the power away from the people. The most precious component that we have as a citizen in this state is the ability to have an honest and accurate vote. I'm not a commissioner, but if I had an opportunity to place a performance review on Mr. Nago, he would get an F. And in addition to what he receive an F, I would require his replacement. I would require his resignation as of this day. I am definitely opposed to Scott Nago's continuing as office elections chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cordery.
The next testifier is Rye, followed by Janet Mason.
Right, what's your name?
Hello, my name is Rye Thornton. I'm the president
you.
of my precinct for the Republican Party. So you guys are addressing election transparency and the security of the ballots. I run a small IT company. This is all ludicrous. There is absolutely no way that you can verify or trust anything on any computer anywhere. There's been several people have testified in front of Congress pointing out that electronic voting is easy to hack. There have been several hackathons all across the country where teenagers with very little experience are often able to rig the vote on these electronic voting machines. There's, and it doesn't matter if you have a paper ballot, if the paper ballot is then put into a computer, as it is in my district. So again, this entire thing is an absolute farce. I do want to thank whoever allowed the public to speak and testify here. This is the first part of transparency on any of this that I've seen. And I also want to point out that to the 5 of you repeatedly stonewalling all attempts at transparency or honesty, that includes McAdams and Osterkamp and is this Mike Curtis on my screen right now? Is that who this is? Yeah, you guys are stonewalling the transparency in a constitutional republic. This is tantamount to treason. I don't know if you know what the punishment is for treason, but you are all committing treason by stonewalling the public and not allowing, by editing the minutes after the fact, as we've seen in this meeting, by not providing accurate minutes to the meeting, as we've seen in this meeting, by ejecting other commissioners while they're raising issues, as we saw in the previous meeting. This is treason. So you guys should be very, very, very aware and careful about your own personal safety moving forward. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton.
The next testifier is Janet Mason, followed by Carl Dix.
Chair, point of order.
What rule am I not following?
I'm not sure if you're not following a rule, but I would like for the chair to caution attendees against making explicit threats. We have enough issues to discuss without needing to hear that people are going to be coming after us, that God is going to be striking us down, that we're going to go to jail.
Thank you, Mr. Osterkamp. Your point of order is overruled. I will point out that threats of physical or fiscal harm are crimes of what is that? Assault. Any threat to physical or fiscal is a crime of assault. And I'll warn speakers ahead of time now. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Janet Mason, followed by Carl Dix.
Ms. Mason.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. I'm testifying on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Hawaii. The League takes no position on the performance because it's a personnel matter, and we do not take positions on the personnel matters because we don't supervise these people and we're not in a position to know firsthand the scope of their performance. But this is a situation where the public is trusting the Commission to use high professional standards for the evaluation. We want you to look at the broad scope of the election officer's duties and the specific responsibility of the job. We hope you'll be as objective as possible. At least 2 people have already brought this up, and we look forward to seeing the results of the evaluation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mason.
The next testifier is Carl Dix, followed by Doug.
Aloha, Commissioners.
Aloha.
I've been following the elections here in Hawaii for quite some time. 2016, I would rate as horrific. 2018, worse than horrific. And it continues to slide down. 2018, 2019, or 2020, 2022, and 24 are all substandard, sub-third world country, sub-fifth world. I am currently in the process of filing with the United States Supreme Court at the unconstitutionality of our elections here in Hawaii. In 1845, Congress established a uniform election day to standardize the selection of president electors across all states. One day, not a month. Prior to this, states conducted elections over 34-day period, leading to concerns about fairness and potential manipulation. That sounds familiar. And I have a short list of violations that I've accumulated. And this is just a partial list. The constitutional violations, and then violation 11-2H, 11-2C, 11-17, 11-23, 11-41B, 12-42, 11-63, 11-64, 11-65, 11-77, 11-105, 11-140, 11-152, 11-154, 11-155-1, 155-2, 155-3, 155-4, 155-5, 155-6, 12-21, 16-1, 16-2, 16-22, 16-12-2, 16-12-4, 16-41, 16-42, 16-43, 16-45, 1, 16-45-2, 16-45-3, 16-46, 19-3, 19-3, 2, 19-3, 4, or 19-3, 8, 19-3, 10, 19-3, 12. And that's not everything. That's the performance of Scott Nago. He should have been terminated long ago. Years in, I believe it was in 2016, his solution to, stacking the deck, if you will, was to run out of ballots. So then they come in with mail-in ballots so they could fix that and cover that. There's supposed to be one-day elections, one day only, to get rid of all this garbage, to get rid of all this manipulation, to get rid of all this fraud, and with that, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Dix.
The next testifier is Doug Pasnick, followed by Andrew Aker.
Mr. Pasnick, you're muted. There you go.
Waiting to be unmuted. Thank you. Commissioners, by HRS 1175, this commission is responsible for public hearings, investigations, adopting rules, and employing the chief elections officer, and by HRS 1185 for an election review program to improve elections, which is non-existent. In the past year, the commission's held 8 meetings, nearly 29 hours of debate, and received complaints from more than 200 testifiers and hundreds of pages of correspondence. What has the commission done? You've discussed signature verification procedures wherein no observers are present in spite of the law, which requires official observers for all ballot handling, and you passed a motion in June to adopt a rule to change this procedure, but you never followed through on anything. There's no rule, there's no official observers during signature verification for another election. You've acknowledged that ballot images can be manipulated, and you passed a motion in April to advise Mr. Nago to use paper ballots for all audits, but the audits with images continue for the mail-in ballots in our elections. You've discussed chain of custody concerns for the entire year, passed 2 motions in April and August to request records from the counties, and a motion in March to adopt a rule to ensure chain of custody records were certified on penalty of perjury, but you never followed through on anything. There's no rule and there's no records. Now the people in our last election have witnessed an election wherein the number of mail-in ballots exceeds the number of envelopes in a mail-in election. And there's no chain of custody records showing where more than 3,000 ballots in Kauai and more than 19,000 ballots in Hawaii came from. And Maui says they have no records for chain of custody. Is the commission concerned? You passed a motion to oppose joining ERIC and then watched Mr. Nago testify twice to the legislature in support of ERIC and tell multiple senators and representatives that the commission only advises him what to do. You'll recall it took 4 votes to reappoint Mr. Nago in February and March after 9-1 testimony against Mr. Nago's reappointment. And after receiving evidence and testimony of past election certification failures, the commission voted against advising the chief elections officer to certify the election in accordance with the law. Did any commissioner even attend or observe county or counting center operations during the last election? Mr. Curtis, your commission is under 3 separate investigations by the Attorney General's office for violations of the Sunshine Law, and now upon request from Representative Garcia for your abuse of power in ejecting a commissioner from the last meeting. And to one simple question that was asked of the Deputy Attorney General regarding how it was possible to sign a certificate of election before the election of certified, you rescinded the motion to answer a simple question. Now you'll debate, likely in private, a performance evaluation for Mr. Nago and a biennial report that will go to the legislature. Quickly forget these issues and concerns of the people. We have not forgotten them. Your commission is a sham. You didn't find the courage to step down, and I pray that the remaining commissioners see what's obvious to the people and have the moral courage to act and tell the truth about Hawaii's elections. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor.
The next testifier is Andrew Aker, followed by, I believe Ralph, Commissioner Cushney has his hand raised as well.
Thank you.
Aloha kako, Andrew Aker here from Maui Freedom TV. I am really, really angry right now, so I'm just going to take a deep breath and try to be as polite as everyone else here has been. Shame on you, Mike Curtis, for not stepping down. Shame on Scott Nago for not stepping down. Shame on everyone here who has been complicit in that. Shame on you, Jeffrey Esquire Osterkamp, for trying to use fear manipulation to limit our First Amendment protected speech. Yes, indeed, it is illegal and unlawful to violate our election laws, and there are indeed legal consequences for that. And since you guys work for us, not you, Esquire, because, our founding fathers didn't want esquires or lawyers in government, but for all the government employees here, you do work for us and you do answer to us. And we're going to keep coming very lawfully, very peacefully, but very consistently to ensure that you do your jobs, period. And we are not going to back down. We're not going to be scared away. And if you get some Gestapo plainclothes police to arrest or to remove Ralph Cushney again, or anybody who's really representing the people, then, you're going to have lawful consequences. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Aker.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Cushney has his hand raised, Chair.
Is he in line with the speakers or is he the next speaker?
He's the next speaker.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd like to read to you 11-2, the Chief Elections Officer's duty. The Chief Elections Officer shall supervise all state elections. Okay, Cambridge Dictionary definition of supervise means to watch a person or activity to make certain that everything is done correctly. And I'm just going to talk about the bare basics. We've been speaking about chain of custody. We've been requesting chain of custody. What is the purpose of chain of custody? The purpose of chain of custody is to make sure that ballots are not either being added or subtracted illegally through the process. In the Office of Elections website, there's a question and answer under voting security. How do you ensure elections officials don't throw away our ballots? And I will add ballots. And the answer is ballots are always transported and processed in the presence of official observers. Official observers serve as eyes and ears of the public and monitor that election officials are maintaining the security and integrity of elections. Additionally, I'm going to repeat this, additionally, the number of ballots received and counted are reconciled at the end of each day to ensure there are no discrepancies. I was at the counting center and I asked the head of the counting center, would he be looking at the chain of custody and reconciling them with his counts? And they freaked out. And I got a letter from the Office of Elections telling me that I was going to be removed for disrupting the operations. So That's a sign of what they're doing to anyone who asks questions. I was simply asking for chain of custody, and it freaked everyone out. Now, what's happening and what we've seen through the documentation that we have received, and we have received less documentation than is out there. So Kauai has submitted some of it. Big Island has submitted some. Maui and Oahu have still not given us their chain of custody documentation. The counties are receiving less ballots than the state is counting. So through the Dropbox collection and through the postal collection, they are keeping track, okay? That number is increasing at the signature verification process, where, believe it or not, no observers are allowed to be, okay? So that number is increasing. And then when those ballots are taken over to the state counting center, observers are not allowed to count the ballots that are being transferred. They are told to count the number of trays. And I was at the counting center every single day that they were counting ballots, and I witnessed the transfer of these ballots. And the observers counted trays. There were full trays, half trays. There was a cardboard box. The envelopes were sticking out on the sides. And you could not tell how many ballots were in each tray. And they varied by hundreds of ballots in each tray. So again, the chain of custody was broken. Ballots were added into signature verification, and we believe it's electronic. Now, when it comes to the audits and the counting center puts stacks of ballots into the machine.
Thank you. Thank you, Ralph.
Let me finish here. Each stack of ballots, you don't know how many ballots are there. When you do the audits are done with ballot images, and you never have a physical count of the ballots. Chair, let me finish.
Your time's up. We need
I'm
another
almost finished.
speaker.
Let me finish.
You can
Chair.
talk at the end, another 3 minutes at the end of this. Thank you. Next speaker.
The next testifier is Wallen Christian, followed by Shigemi Okada.
Wallen Christian, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Unmute Mr. Christian. Thank you.
Can you hear me? It's Miss Christian Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, now we hear you.
Hi, sorry, I'm at the legislature, so it might be a little noisy, so I'll try to get to a quiet area. In regards to Mitchell, was not a volunteer observer. However, I've heard many testimonies from a lot of people. And, you know, it's unfortunate because the people of Hawaii just does not trust him. And he has failed the people on many activities. I will tell you this, the boxes, the drop-off boxes. I remember when it was supposed to be collection day, there was someone who drove around and watched the boxes. And they did not stay to the 7 p.m. time. What they did was they collected earlier. So those that did drop it off between, and let's just give an example, 6:30 p.m. until 6 p.m., their votes were not counted because it was not picked up. There's just many things, and I mean, you're gonna hear it. I don't want to be repetitive on what's being said. However, the number one thing is that people
I'm not getting any audio. Is anybody else getting audio?
I hear her.
Can you guys hear? Sorry, Ralph, can you hear me?
For some reason, we're not getting audio.
Getting odd audio.
Very sketchy.
Yeah.
After I'll get to a better place. How's that?
That looks better. Sounds better.
I cannot hear anything, Chair.
I can hear her loud and clear.
Next speaker, please.
Okay, the next speaker is Shigemi Okada, followed by Robin McCreary.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. First, I want to address Mr. Curtis as a chairman. I'm a 65-year-old woman that was raised in an era that we need to be courteous to other people. I noticed that you address different members of your committee or board differently. Some by first name and others by Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so. I wonder why that's so. That shows, I'm not gonna judge your intention, but it seems disrespectful to me. And now I'm addressing Mr. Osterkamp. Mr. Osterkamp, you threatened the public by saying that we threaten you. Well, let me make sure you know, God does not listen to us. We listen and we obey his law. So as an intercessor, I pray that you will not be stricken. But if you don't do what's right, God will do what he deems right. So I would urge you to do the right thing and listen and show care for the public opinion. And I also want to address the issue about the job evaluation of Mr. Nago. I once worked for a bank, and I'm sure you all do. If your bank did not have good inventory control on the cash that moves from a branch to wherever it goes, I think you guys are going to be in big trouble. So they do have very strict control on what leaves the branch or what comes into the branch, and use unreusable bag reports on what's contained. And we don't go by how many bags left the branch. And they have audit departments. They have security departments. They have personnel departments. And they have financial officers that keep track of the spending and then the planning and budgeting. All of those things are done by people whose jobs are evaluated. And then there's a CEO, the president, that oversee those things. Well, Mr. Nago is in a position to oversee all these important aspects of something that's even more important than the money. Each ballot is very valuable, and yet his disregard or lack of care on these issues, to me, tells me that he really doesn't deserve to stay in the job. So therefore, I urge Mr. Nago to step down immediately, and that you, as a commission members, do not give him any raise, because I have not seen him do a job or supervise units that are supposed to do a job well. So thank you for the time. I yield.
Thank you, Ms. Okada.
The next testifier is Robin McCreary, followed by Rosemary Yauk.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm at my Rotary meeting. Oh boy, sorry. What Carl said about Scott Nega, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name properly, but I ask that he steps down. And then for the people on the board, I don't know how many of you might be Rotarians, but we have a 4-way test. And the first one, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And 4, is it beneficial to all concerned? I would ask you guys to think about doing that, because you're holding our hands and keeping us safe. And it doesn't feel that way, except for there's a few guys on the board that I'm very impressed with. And I'm sorry for tearing up, but come on, work with us and help us, because we don't have anybody but you to take care of us, and you're not doing a very well job. So I yield.
Thank you, Ms. McCreary.
The next testifier is Rosemary Yauk, followed by Dana Land.
Rosemary Yauk, Kauai, signature verification, observer in 2022, and I organized signature verification observation for the general election 2024. As far as Mr. Nago's evaluation, I would give him an F. As far as signature verification, observation. We're supposed to be the eyes and ears of this election integrity. I have reported and had meetings with Jade Tanagawa, who also provided a glowing letter of recommendation for Mr. Nago in the agenda items for this meeting. I was met only with stonewalling and still can't get an answer on ballots that were rejected for no voter registration signature. There's a ton of them. And I also asked to see the new equipment that every county got, the Runbeck Agilus system. Kauai couldn't even get theirs up and running. And when I asked for the failure test analysis, again, stonewalled. I can't get any data out of the county. And as far as Mr. Nago goes, I requested chain of custody information from his office, and again, stonewalled. I give him an F. Former JAG attorney and former Commissioner William Dean went on record that the system is not air gapped. There is no security. The numbers can be made anything they want. And Chair Curtis went on record, I believe it was June 19th, that they agree that digital images can be manipulated. Our elections have no security. Scott Nago, as chief elections officer, is responsible to provide that. He hasn't. And electronic voting started with Mr. Nago before he was the chief election officer in 2007 when he wrote the RFP for Hart Intercivic, followed by a lawsuit because Hart Intercivic was awarded the contract in 2007. The other contractor sued the state, won, and it cost the state of Hawaii $9 million and voided that contract. Electronic voting did not start with COVID. It started with Scott Nago in 2007. I yield.
Thank you, Michelle.
The next testifier is Dana Land, followed by Mary Healy.
Hi, Ms. Land, you're muted. Thank you.
Aloha, everybody. I don't know if you can see me, doesn't matter. I am a fifth generation Kama'aina. The state of Hawaii is supposed to lead with aloha, and I'm sure you're all aware of the law about aloha spirit. I am a speaker. I'm a public speaker, a keynote speaker on the topic of ethics and morals. This is my first time seeing this display of local politics in this manner. And I have to say, I'm quite disgusted. I had no idea. And if we don't have ethics, morals, integrity, trust, and truth, what do we have? What do we have? Are there people here who are incompetent? Do we have people here who are corrupt? Maybe a little bit of both. I don't know, but there's a lot of questions that are being raised in my mind about this whole board of commissioners. I would question everybody to look at their own ethics. Are you guys doing the right thing even when nobody is watching? Okay, that's the simple definition of ethics. And I'm livid. I'm actually livid. I had no idea how bad this election integrity was or lack thereof. So I'll just finish by saying I urge Mr. Nago to step down, like immediately. And thank God we have some people in the public who have spoken in the last 30 minutes who also see the truth here and are also speaking up. And I encourage others to step up. We got to be loud about this. And all of you who are not doing the right thing, you need to consider your own level of ethics. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Ms. Land.
The next testifier is Mary Healy.
Ms. Healy. Next.
The next testifier is Jarrett.
Jared, please state your name.
Yeah, I'm Jarek. Man, I always jump on these meetings, and right when we all think that it could be okay, it just gets worse. You know, to see a few people, only a few people on this commission, and everybody in Hawaii is counting on a fair and secure election, to see that these guys up here, besides the three people, you know, hey, Papalimu, you know, where is she? There's only one meeting a month, and the people need her to be placing her vote, because then it would make it a lot more fair, right? Because the way I see it, and I look up there, I see Kawada, I see Osterkamp, I see McAdams, I see Young now, and Curtis, and we would like the people that is on these meetings, we take the time out of our days to listen and show concern. I'm concerned for a big island. My concern is, you know, this is why the county and the state should not be on the same election day on the same ballot. This is the reason why the state of Hawaii prove again and again that they're not competent of managing anything, but they're very successful at mismanaging everything. Okay, like, hey, we want our county to be voting for our county elections on a different day from the state of Hawaii. The county and the state is two different governments. They should never be running against the citizens who pay your guys' wages, who keep these counties, who keeps this so-called illegal occupation running from our tax-paying money. Like, hey, this is the reason why we already have our own elections office. Leave the county to the county. Leave the state to the state. County has more jurisdiction than the state. We don't want the state to have jurisdiction in our county. They've proven time and time again, they're not for the people. This is wrong. I would like, I guess everybody on this meeting would like all those guys that is voting against, right? Ralph, Dylan, Papalimu, and Aquino. Seems like these are the only four people that know what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. The rest of you guys, shame, man. Shame on you guys. We want to hear your explanations on why you're voting the way you're voting, because it does not make any sense. We're trying to correct the wrong that has already been written by people like you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Medeiros. Next speaker, I think, looks like Mary Healy's back.
Yes, the next testifier is Mary Healy, followed by Noella Von Wigan.
Ms. Healy.
Hello, can you
Aloha.
hear me?
Yep.
Hi. Okay, perfect. I'm here to testify about Scott Nago's performance. I actually started coming to these meetings in February of 2024 because I was really concerned when Scott Nago tried to push HB 132 through. And, you know, I share a lot of the same concerns as, you know, Gary Cordery and Andy Crossland and Jamie Detweiler and et cetera, and et cetera, and et cetera. I've been coming here to try and push the commission to do something about Scott Nago because I feel like he's inefficiently running our elections. There is several points that I agree with Gary Cordery, but most of all, I feel that Hawaii should have in-person voting promoted. And I think that I understood during COVID, but we are long past COVID. And we are seeing the inefficiencies of mail-in ballots, especially universal mail-in ballots. And, you know, I just think that Scott Nago needs to be fired 100%. I'm really upset also that when I went to go vote in person, there's no I voted stickers. Like, what's going on with that? Why can't we promote everyone's right to vote in the state? This is the United States of America. Early voting and voting in person should be fundamentally protected. And the issues with chain of custody, the issues with, as other speakers have mentioned, the actual audit process. That's why I even got started in this, is because I want our audit process to have integrity. I want election integrity in the state of Hawaii. So I'm really grateful, Chair, that you listened to my testimony and that of the other people concerned from the state. And I'm really grateful for the commission for hearing my testimony. And I hope to continue to work with you all at changing what's happening with the Hawaii state elections. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Healy.
The next testifier is Noella, followed by Jonathan and Margaret Lim.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. I'm testifying that Mr. Nago needs to go away. It's been going on too long, and just do the right thing, Mr. Nago. You will be able to sleep better at night. A lot of people aren't happy with your job performance. So please, please reach into your heart and, you know, just go do something else, please. You know, Mr. Kuwata, Miss McAdam, Mr. Osterkamp, Mr. Young, Mr. Curtis, I would also ask all you folks to please consider why you are here. I know that you feel like you're doing something and you're participating, and that's good, but it's painfully evident to so many of us that you're not listening, you're not going to listen, and the smugness of you people is so not aloha spirit. We have a lot of problems with our elections, many problems, and I don't understand why you folks can't lock arms with we the people. You're just like us. A couple of you sit there with smug looks on your face. What we say goes in one ear, out the other. You're probably already prejudged us, but it's because I care about your vote too, you know. I care about you folks. And I would hope that you care about me and the rest of the people in this room and out amongst our islands. You have such a sacred thing that you get to participate in on your own volition. Yet you work against us. I know you folks can do better. I know you can, Mr. Osterkamp, Mr. Kuwata, Miss McAdam. I know you can. I truly in my heart, Mr. Curtis, know you folks can do better. We're not asking for anything other than following the law under the Constitution of the state of Hawaii and the United States Constitution. Please, I urge you folks, please sit down, have a sit down with yourselves and really search in your heart. What are you doing here? Because it's no, nothing. You don't want to work with us, which makes me question, do you truly know what the Aloha Spirit's about? You know, and I say all of this, Pono, with respect to each and every one of you, but I'm asking Mr. Nago, please step down. Mr. Kuwata, Mr. Curtis, Miss McAdam, Mr. Osterkamp, Mr. Young, please step down and let somebody else do the job. Mahalo.
Thank you.
The next testifier is Jonathan and Margaret Lim, followed by Bernard Leubner.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, this is Margaret Lim. I just want to urge Scott Nago to step down. I was a candidate in this past election, and as I was door knocking, there are so many people who told me they don't want to vote because they don't trust in the integrity of our election system. So please step down. There are other candidates who are better qualified, who would give the Hawaii state a peace of mind and confidence in our election process. Please step down. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Lim.
The next testifier is Bernard Loimer, followed by Cheryl Beeler.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, perfect.
Next speaker.
The next speaker is Cheryl Beeler, followed by Wallen Christian.
You're muted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me? Thank you. I have sat here for meeting after meeting after meeting, and we really get nothing accomplished here. And the reason that we get nothing accomplished here is because we have the same 4 people fighting what we, the people, are trying to accomplish. Mr. Kawada, you sit there and you have that smirk on your face constantly. It's arrogant. You're arrogant. Mr. Osterkamp, you're an attorney. And you sit there with a look on your face like you're terrified. And the other 2, I don't even know why you're here, because all you do is vote no against everything. We're supposed to be working together to make things better. But you guys stick together, just like the Democrats in Congress. Even if you know it's wrong, you're going to vote and stick together like that. That's not what we're here for. We're here to secure our elections. Election integrity is the most important thing that we have, because elections, the right to vote, is the most important thing that we have as an American citizen. And if you guys can't figure that out, then you need to step down. And if there is a way to recall these commissioners, then somebody please figure it out and let's do it, because we're not getting anything done anywhere, anytime. And it's really disgusting. Why are you here? Why did you run? Please answer the questions. We have been asking you why? What is the purpose of you being here? If you're not going to work with the 97 people that are on this call alone that are asking for your help. I yield.
Thank you.
The next testifier is Wallen Christian.
Hi, can you guys hear me better now?
A little better. Thank you.
Okay, great. Let me try and make this short, because I know you guys still got some people. We've had too many problems with Scott Nagle running the helm of the elections. And I too ran for office in 2022 and 2024. I'm not going to blame that on not proceeding, because I do believe that it was God's plan for me not to be in office, so that I can come to these hearings and other hearings and speak up on behalf of the people. The unfortunate part is that Scott Nagle does not listen to the people. And if he's not going to listen to the people, then he doesn't serve the people. So therefore, he needs to be removed. I'm not asking him to step down. I'm asking the commission to do their job and remove him from his seat, because we've had too many problems in 2012, 2014, 2020, now 2022 and 2024. It's obvious that he has not done his job according to what his responsibilities are. And that's so that I say it's the commission's job and responsibility to remove him, because the people are asking you to do so. As far as for the commissioners who sit there, and there are 4 of you, sometimes 5 of you, with you, Mr. Curtis, that vote against the people every single time. I'd like to know if the commissioners actually go out to their constituents that they represent and they ask them what they want. Because I guarantee you, the answer is no. For the 4 that do stand up for the rights of the people, I applaud you and I appreciate you, and please don't give up. I yield.
Thank you.
The next testifier, oh, sorry. Commissioner Kushney has his hand raised again, and Rosemary Yao has her hand raised again.
So Ralph's the next speaker.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So what I have in front of me is a set of goals that Mr. Nago sent to the Department of Accounting and General Services in January of 2024. And I'm going to read off some of the goals that are on this paper. It's too numerous to read, but to provide secure elections, to provide election services statewide, to prepare, procure, and control inventory of election ballots for state and concurrently conducted county elections statewide. So this is prescribed by HAR 3-177453, chain of custody. This is one of his goals. We do not have any chain of custody documentation that is legit. And we're not comparing it to, we're not comparing the chain of custody to the results. Now, in addition to that, he's said that he's going to address election security and public confidence in election services. And then on performance measure, customer satisfaction measure, the number of election complaints and challenges received on the following each election. This data is important to determine how effectively voters have been informed of their rights and responsibilities and how effectively we have served their communities. This is from Scott Nago himself. Now, I would be curious to know if he actually keeps the matrix of complaints. Now, back to my point on what's happening with the elections. There's no chain of custody, and this is purposeful. Votes are being added during the signature verification. There's no chain of custody, again, from the transfer of ballots from the county to the state. They're only counting trays. And then when the ballots are counted by a computer, audits are done using computer images. And this needs to be investigated right away. And I asked for the counties to step forward. You know your chain of custody is good, and you know your numbers are not jiving. You need to step forward. This needs to be investigated. And if the commission just blows this off, we have a responsibility to investigate. This is a legitimate complaint, and you've been bearing this stuff for a long time now. The public is obviously fed up. We've had everybody against Nago and nobody for it. You solicited all the counties to give testimony. Only 2 counties gave you pro-Nago testimony. So I'm asking the commission, we need to investigate chain of custody. The pieces of paper do not match how many votes they say were counted. We need to count the pieces of paper and compare that and see if the numbers match. So I urge you to take this on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kushney. I think Rosemary Yauk is the next speaker, I believe. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to speak to the topic of security of our elections. Time and time again, my information is buried in the minutes and never seen again. I've asked numerous times in public session to either affirm or deny a testifier who was Scott Nago's, quote, troubleshooter, IT troubleshooter, who went on record that, quote, most of the staff are CCP. That is election interference. Nobody has answered it. I've requested it several times. I'm requesting it again. And Scott Nago I'm assuming that your employee is correct, that you have CCP, most of your employees running the IT department for elections. Unacceptable. I yield.
Thank you.
Answer the question.
The next testifier is Wolfgang Eisterer, followed by Nick Eric.
I think we lost Mr. Esther.
The next testifier is Nick Eric, followed by Painkillers.
Barely hear you, Mr. Eric. Oh, lost you.
The next testifier is Painkillers.
State your name, please. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Sorry, I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Painkillers, don't know your name, but we cannot hear you. Could we move on to the next, please?
Okay, the next raised hand is Stefan Kasny.
Thank you. Sorry, Painkillers, we can't hear you. Mr. Kasny. And we just lost you. We'll allow one more speaker, Mr. Jarek Medeiros. Mr. Medeiros, you're muted too.
There, can you hear me now?
Can hear you now. Thank you.
So other people, they're saying that the hosts are not letting them, not unmuting them. They want to testify, but they can't talk. I mean, I don't know. So Painkiller's been waiting, but he texted me, so I figured I'd try to raise my hand, but I'm letting you guys know. Thank you guys for letting me back in, for letting you guys know that they can't get in. Thank you.
Thank you. Raina Laughlin. Raina Laughlin once. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Chair, I think Painkillers has been unmuted.
Okay, Painkillers, state your name, please. We still can't hear you. Okay. Please go on to the last speaker, Raina Laughlin.
Okay, next testifier, Raina Laughlin.
Raina Laughlin. Sorry, I can't hear you, Miss Laughlin. Mr. or Mrs. Laughlin. Can move on to Nicolette Von. Could you unmute Nicolette, please? Nicolette, you're still muted. There you
Aloha.
go.
Are you
Aloha.
there? Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you so much for letting me speak a little bit here. I've been waiting to see if anybody else brought this up, but in the very beginning of this meeting, your board made some decisions, and one of them was to not have to respond to us and not to have, like talk to us, the people that are your employers, and that you had that you needed to be able to, you're forced to hear us, but you're not imposed upon to actually answer us. And I think that's just in the course of people. We deserve to have a conversation with you all on the board, not just to be quote unquote heard and then never to be seen again or even listened to again. Unless it's another meeting where we have to sit here and listen to all these people say the exact same things over and over again. And then we go to our election and nothing has changed. So I was very discouraged that none of my suggestions from last year were used at the meeting and at the voting polls. I want to go back to just going down the street and voting, so many things. But there's no way that people wanted to go all the way down into downtown Honolulu to vote. It was so ridiculous. Plus, this chain of custody thing is out of control. And so, of course, we want to tell you guys that you all are fired. Of course we do. But I think you really should reconsider and start opening up the conversation between us and you so that we feel like you're hearing us. You ask us questions. Some of these people that talked are very knowledgeable. They know so much about what's going wrong. Why aren't you having conversations with them? Why aren't you sending the paperwork that they're requesting for chain of custody? These things, see, we can say that until we're blue in the face for another 20 years. But if you have if there's no legal way to force you to answer us, then what's the point? It's just ridiculous. This is ridiculous, to tell you the truth. And I've spent, my whole morning listening, and then here you tell us in the very first few, the first hour ad nauseum, that you guys don't want to have that conversation with us, we the people. You don't want to have that conversation with us. You don't want to have to answer us. And it is very insulting, really. And many times I felt insulted when I get off my thing because you would just dismiss me, and I could feel it in the voice of the people dismissing these people today too. And the people that are, yeah, go ahead, talk. And as soon as your 3 minutes is up, we're going to dismiss you and completely forget what you just said. And however, there were some people today that really brought the word home to you. And so, of course, Nago's got to go. I would suggest that you open up the conversation between us, we the people, and your board, and let us hear your answer to how you're going to fix the things that we're bringing up. Until you do that, I don't know what the world, is ever going to be resolved here. And you've got to get rid of this person that obviously is not by the people and for the people. Appointed people. I don't even get it. And then you bring in a lawyer that calls himself Esquire. Oh, give us a break. Aloha.
Thank you, Nicolette. Miss Okada will give you another try, another turn. Miss Okada, please.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I just texted Raina Lachlan, and she said that she can't get in because the host is not allowing her. So there's some either the technical things going on, or maybe the host needs to check with others that could help her, because some of the participants are not being allowed to get in. It says not allowed to unmute. That's the message they're getting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please do something.
I don't think that's a message on our side. So the number 7, performance evaluation and consideration of the salary adjustment of the chief election officer. Because this is an employment matter, I would entertain a motion to enter executive session to have a direct discussion with Mr. Nago. Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for discussing employee matters. Takes six votes to get into executive session. I'll ask for a roll call.
We
Okay.
discussing first, Chair?
Yeah, okay. We can discussion, I'm sorry. Dylan, go ahead.
I'll repeat what I said last time we were evaluating Mr. Nago, and the discussion was around having this behind closed doors or in front of the public. And I'm in favor of doing this in front of the public. I know last time when we looked through all the statutes and rules, it's not required that we do this behind closed doors. And Scott Nago can be evaluated in the public. So I think we should do it in the public. I'll be voting no against this.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into executive? There's been a motion and a second to go into executive session. Are there other discussion? This is an employee matter, and the employee has an opportunity to go into executive session and discuss with us openly.
Yes,
or
Chair.
refuse to discuss with us publicly.
Chair, I would like a discussion, please.
On the motion, yes.
Yes.
Executive session.
So the rules for going into executive session. This is a public evaluation, and there are no privacy issues that we're going to be discussing. We're talking about purely performance issues. We're not discussing Mr. Nago's sex life or anything like that. We're talking about performance. Is chain of custody being met? Is signature verification transparent? Are ballot audits done correctly? That's all we're going to discuss. So the public has every right to hear this. And the privacy concerns of Scott Nago on having a poor performance does not trump the public's interest to know. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the executive session? All those in favor of going into executive, or have a roll call, please. Going into executive session, and I believe this requires 6 votes. If I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken.
Commissioner Andrian,
Nay.
Commissioner Aquino,
No.
Commissioner Kushney,
No.
Commissioner Kawada,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdam,
Yes.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
Yes.
Commissioner Papalimos is excused, Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Curtis.
Yes. So that we fall short of the 6 votes required to go into executive session. I can ask Mr. Nago if he's willing to participate in public. Is Scott on the line here?
No, Chair.
He's not on? Oh,
No,
thank you.
I'm on the line. Yeah, the answer to your question is no.
Okay, thank you. So the public discussion without Scott Nago's participation is to give him an evaluation and consider a salary adjustment. Are there, I would entertain a motion.
I move to remove Scott Nago.
There a second? I
Second.
believe he has a 4-year, he was appointed to a 4-year term last year, I believe.
He's an at-will employee.
I don't
Chair,
believe
you
so.
should know
I
that.
believe he's on a 4-year appointment.
Do we have a second?
We do have a second for the discussion to remove Scott Nago.
Can I start the discussion, Chair?
Discussion, please.
So chain of custody, the most basic building block. We've been discussing chain of custody in every single meeting the whole entire last year. We don't even have chain of custody from all the counties. How can we reconcile the vote if we don't have chain of custody? That's the most simplest. Everybody I talk to in the public thinks that chain of custody is being kept. And if the counties are going and pretending to record votes, is that committing fraud? Scott Nago is the supervisor of the state elections. And that means that he is in charge of seeing that they get done correctly. I cannot believe that the rest of the commissioners are not even curious to know, have any of the counties turned in chain of custody. Let's put that on the internet and let's compare what the chain of custody tells us. And I contend that chain of custody is not being kept purposefully. They are adding electronic voters into signature verification. And this is a very serious allegation. They're adding electronic voters into signature verification. When the ballots get transferred, the number of trays are recorded, not the number of ballots. And then when the ballots are counted and the audits are conducted, the audits are conducted with ballot images. So there is never a physical accounting of how many pieces of paper we have. The county's chain of custody documentation is the only physical count, is the only check on this entire system, and we don't have it. So I don't know how we can keep him employed, and it's not from a lack of asking. And HRS 11, HAR 3-177453 says that Scott Nago is supposed to provide the document that the counties record this on. And I've asked for it repeatedly, it's been brought up, and he has still yet to this day given the commission the form that the county is supposed to record chain of custody documentation on. So that alone, he needs to be fired and needs to be fired today. Thank you.
Other discussion?
Chair.
Is there any other discussion?
Chair, I'd like to add to Commissioner Cushing's testimony, and I hope our other fellow commissioners will join us in voting to remove Scott Nago. One of the first things that I've encountered with this commission was the attempt to change language with the legislature so that we use ballot images, which is now what we're using, because it was a way to circumvent what he couldn't get done. That, along with the public testimony against enrolling in ERIC and the blatant disregard for the public saying that we shouldn't do that, and this commission, by majority vote of commissioners from both sides here, saying we should not enroll in ERIC, and the chief election officer deciding on his own accord to go against that advice. I don't know what job, what vocation, where if your supervisor told you to do something and you went opposite of that direction, you would get a raise. There would be discipline, there would be some kind of consequence. And the truth is, this commission has not held Scott Nago accountable for anything. And unfortunately, Chair, that everything does rise and fall with leadership. I feel like along with Scott Nago, there needs to be a vote of no confidence in the chair, and the chair needs to change as well for things to really change and for this commission to be effective in seeing things get done. So I'll be voting to remove Scott Nago today.
Thank you. Additional discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Chair.
Yes, Ralph.
May I just speak briefly before Commissioner Cushing?
With
Yes.
Ralph's permission. Go ahead,
Yes.
Anita.
Yes.
Yes, I'd just like to quote Hawaii Revised Statutes 11 1.6, item G. The chief election officer is an at-will employee. The Elections Commission shall provide written notification of any removal and state the reason for the removal. And I'm for this. If it requires written notification, so be it. I'm willing to be a part of that. Thank you.
Ralph.
Yes, Chair, thank you. So the bigger picture here is that the people are the bosses. And for Mr. Nago not be willing to sit in front of the public and address the public's concerns, that right there is grounds for removal. It's not transparent. He can't face the people and say, I'm doing a good job. He can't get up here and address my issues of chain of custody. And he's just gonna let this get swept under the rug. I would like him to address my issue of chain of custody. Why aren't we comparing how many ballots we collected to the number of ballots that are reported? And it says that it's supposed to be done and it's not being done. Why can't he address this to the people? It's very simple. And the fact that he can't be up there is very telling. And I hope the rest of the commissioners can see this, because if a person who's leading cannot face the troops and explain to the troops what's happening, he's not a leader. He needs to be dismissed. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? I'd like to make a comment. How many races in this last year's election were contested for technical problems? How many races in the last election are questionable? You ran the election, the elected officers have been installed, and I don't think any of them have been contested. That's success in an election. Any other discussion?
Chair, may I make a comment?
Certainly.
Has the Detweiler issue in 2022 been addressed?
What
That
issue?
has been going on for many, many months where Ms. Detweiler's request has not been addressed. And Chair CEO Nago said it needs to wait until after election. Well, it's after election. Has that been dealt with? That's
What
another thing.
What
I mean,
issue
you
is
talk
that?
about the contest between Ms. Detweiler and her opponent. That required being paid attention to. And this has not been dealt with by Mr. Nago.
Additional discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, sir.
I would ask Mr. Nago to address my concerns with chain of custody right now. He has the opportunity to address this, and I would like him to address it, please.
Mr. Nago, it's your option to appear or not. Scott Nago? He's already opted out. I'd like, Scott Nago, are you here?
Yes, Chair, I'm here.
And would you care to answer that?
So I believe the chain of custody issue we've addressed with Mr. Kushner, Commissioner Kushner before. We do follow the statute. We do follow the rules. It's his opinion that we don't, and that is he's entitled to his opinion.
Could you supply the chain of custody documentation, and is it reconciled with the
Excuse me, Ralph, wait a minute. You can make comments, but we're not discussing with Nago his employment, as he won't allow it in public. And
It sounds like you're
that's
not-
his opportunity. We can go into executive session and discuss it if you'd like, but that was chosen against.
We were just having a discussion, you cut it off.
All right, you have the floor for making a statement.
Thank you, Chair. I was just talking to Mr. Nago and then you just cut it off. So he's obviously willing to attest this, but what he is saying, he has not given us the chain of custody documentation. So he needs to give us the chain of custody documentation for each county for the collections from the Dropbox and the post office with the backup to it. And then we need to see how many ballots were signature verified. And then we need the chain of custody documentation for how many ballots were transferred. And we do not have that. And he's saying we do, and the law is not being followed. All of these things, when I went into the counting center and I asked for this information, it was not given in parts of it was given to me on the 21st of November. Okay. This stuff should be posted on the wall daily, and
Absolutely.
all of the county building, they should post it on the wall so it can't be altered, but we're not even getting it. And he can say that they're following the law. Show us the proof that you're following the law. I got FOIAs in the UIPA and they have denied giving me the information. And I can show you that documentation. County of Maui says they don't have it, and Oahu is charging to get it. The Big Island is off by 19,000, and Kauai is off by between 611 and 4,000. We don't know what the number is yet. So what I'm asking the commission to do, let's count the ballots, or let's count the envelopes.
Excuse me, we're talking about Mr. Nago's ejection.
Yes.
The motion on the floor.
That's why I support him being fired, because he hasn't shown us any proof of this. And where is it? We haven't been given to it. So can he provide this prior to the next meeting, and then we'll evaluate him? He's had plenty of time. I've sent all the FOIAs in to, distribute them to the rest of the commissioners. But let's get that information first before we evaluate him. And I will dare you, he does not have that information, and you can challenge me, prove me wrong. He does not have it.
The motion is to fire Scott Nago. Any other discussion on the motion?
Chair, I'd like to make one more comment before we take the
Please.
vote.
Go
I
ahead,
want
Dylan.
to, I'd like to cite HRS 11-7.5 says the duties of the Elections Commission. The duties of the Elections Commission are to, item number 6, hold a public hearing on the performance of the chief election officer and consider the information gathered at the hearing in deliberations on the chief election officer's reappointment. So again, I just want to echo, I feel like there's no reason why we can't compel. You are his boss. This commission is his boss. The public is his boss. He should be compelled to give the answers that we're asking to. That's where we get into bureaucracy, and we have to make a motion on all these things. He should be compelled to answer the question that Commissioner Cushney is asking. It is a very basic question. It's within his derelict duties of running an election. I think it's a mishap, Chair, for you to state that there has been no election things that contested with the election. We've had so many testimonies come forward. And so it just baffles me that you would say that and ignore everything that the public has already said.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion to fire Scott Nago?
I would like to hear yes votes that they're not going to vote for this and their reasons why.
I'll take a roll call vote now.
Okay,
Can we
Commissioner.
hear discussion on the yes votes?
The discussion is on firing Scott Nago. And we're going to take a vote on that now.
Can
Roll
we hear
call vote,
discussion
please.
from the other commissioners? We've only heard from one side, Chair. The public should hear from both sides.
I stated that the election was, there were no races that were contested, and the election wasn't challenged in court.
Yes, it was.
Sounds like
The election passed.
The election was challenged in court. There was multiple lawsuits.
That were all thrown out. I'll ask for a roll call vote on the motion to fire Scott Nago.
Chair, why are you against us the opportunity to hear the others? It's obvious that they're going to vote opposite us. We want to hear from them, and the public wants to hear from them.
Asking for discussion was an opportunity for all the commissioners to speak. Several chose not to, 2 chose to, as well as yourself. So I'm calling for a roll call vote on the motion to fire Scott Nago.
Well, the vote should be yes from all of us if there's no discussion on a no vote.
Thank you, Dylan. Can I have a roll call vote on the motion to fire Scott Nago?
Yes, Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kuwata,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
No.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
Nope.
Commissioner Paulino is excused, Commissioner Young,
No.
Chair Curtis.
No. The motion to fire Scott Nago was defeated. I would entertain a motion for any kind of salary adjustment. Hearing none, we'll go on to the biannual evaluation of operations of elections, and this is where I see the meat of it. There are complaints that legislation can change and fix, and that we need to address the legislature that just came in session today of issues. I have a couple of issues. One is the United States Postal Service. The Postal Service just closed down the Kealia Post Office and quit delivering to multifamily units in Poipu, disenfranchising some. I think the mail limiting our delivery to the US Post Office, I think eliminates other opportunities and really limits us with a declining service. I don't think the USPS is servicing us correctly. The second issue I have is the unique identifying number of each of the ballots. There's a unique identifier on each of the ballots as well as on each of the envelopes that are returned with a signature. That unique ID allows technology to track your vote, to track my vote. It's not a new thing. When we were on ballots, a ballot was issued, and on the poll book, the number of the ballot was recorded next to your signature. So they are tracking ballots, and with Eric and the other technological things, we cannot protect that information. There's a unique identifying number on each of the ballots that may be required by the machines or may be required by the software. But I don't think our behavior should be dictated by machines and software compliance. I think we need to accomplish our own things, as what you've said is in-person voting by paper. I think that's a good idea. Another issue that I have is signatures. How often has your $1,000 credit card charge with a line signature been challenged? Mine never has. Signature verification by machine, I don't think is accurate. Eric, we voted against Eric because, again, major corporations are being hacked. We don't have the budget of these big corporations to prevent hacking of Eric or any other of our systems. So we have to be careful and cautious with our electronics. And again, I don't think machines or programming should change our behavior. I think the machines should reflect our behavior and our requests so that our behavior, like in-person same-day voting, it becomes an opportunity. Are there any other legislative issues that we should be addressing to the legislature?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Ralph.
So there's both. We're not following the books that are the laws that are on the books. So in our report, we don't even have basic inventory control. So how do we who are we going to hold accountable for this? Are we going to tell the legislature that Scott Nago is not keeping inventory control? How is this working? I'm thinking that's our job, to have Mr. Nago have proper inventory control. That is the most basic building block. But you go for
inventory control and reporting is critical.
So all of these statutes that are in place aren't being followed. 11-198, uniform character as far as forms and materials. HAR 11-177453, which we've addressed numerous times, calls for Scott Nago to give the counties a form prescribed by him to the counties to document chain of custody. I've been asking that for that numerous times, still hasn't gotten to us. So can Mr. Nago send us those forms? And then I would like the county, all of them, to send us the forms that they have filled out for the 2024 election, proving that they collected as many envelopes as they say they counted. That's very simple. We have not seen that. So now this is not, I don't know how we go to the legislature. This is Scott Nago's thing.
Well, we're on the legislature now. What can we take to the legislature that'll help resolve some of these issues?
Well, we're going to tell the legislature that the laws on the books are too difficult to follow and that we need to do another type of voting system because none of the laws that are written to secure mail-in election voting are being followed right now. None of them. So we need to go back to the precincts, hand count paper ballots. The votes are counted where they are cast, and there's no machines. That's what we need to do because the whole system we have is incredibly complex. And Mr. Nago and the counties have proven it's too tough. Like Jamie Detweiler's thing, they said they don't have the manpower to count the ballots at the drop box. That's all prescribed by law. If we can't do it, let's go back to the basics, hand count the paper ballots in the precincts, count where cast. Thank you.
Now that's a significant point. The laws are too difficult to follow. Originally, the mail-in balloting was to be tested on Kauai, but the powers that be decided we'd throw the whole thing on the state, and we're learning from it. So the laws are too difficult to follow is something significant to the legislature that needs to be addressed, needs to be raised at the ledge. What other issues need to be raised at the ledge that would affect voting in the elections?
Chair, I think we need to address an issue that we continually keep coming back to, that again, if the laws are too difficult, it's something that's not being followed. Ballot chain of custody is not being followed. And because we're on this agenda item, I think we should take action. And so I'd like to I move to subpoena ballot collection chain of custody documentation from the counties, including Dropbox and post office. We
don't have subpoena authority.
Yes, we do, Chair.
We absolutely do. And you have the deputy AG on the call, and he can attest to that.
I would ask the opinion of the deputy AG on the commission's ability to subpoena and require performance.
So that I think would require specific statutory authority. I don't see that in the statute. So just as a matter of terminology, I think, it's not a subpoena, but I mean, you can certainly make a request of anything you like.
Yeah. We're advisory and requesting as a commission. We don't have the authority to dictate Scott Nago's behavior. We can advise, like in that Eric. We advised against Eric, but his opinion is that the operations would benefit from it. That's his opinion, and that's our advice to him, that he chose to act otherwise. And the subpoena power, I've asked that question before because of our investigations. Do we have subpoena power? Can I ask for these things and require their performance? And the answer is no. Mr. Leon just pointed that out.
It's 92-16. Give me a second, I'm going to read it to you. (92-16) Power of boards to issue subpoenas, administer oaths, and appoint masters. Any board, which term as used in the section means any board or commission of the state or any political subdivision of the state, which is authorized or required to hold hearings for the purpose of receiving evidence, shall have the following powers. In addition to those provided for by any law or in connection to hearings, to subpoena witness upon subpoena signed by the chairperson, acting chairperson, or any other member or executive secretary or executive officer or under the board who is so authorized by the board. The subpoena shall be served in the same manner. Do I need to go on, or can we say that we have subpoena power?
Mr. Leong. I bet he's looking it up.
92-16.
I put it in the chat for us, but I mean, it's black and white and it's there, Chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I stand corrected. I had not looked that up before. So, to subpoena witnesses, to subpoena witnesses, administer oaths to witnesses, and require the testimony of such witnesses on matters germane to the subject under inquiry at the hearing.
It just says witnesses. It doesn't say documents.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
It's the same thing. Come on, guys.
No, no, it is not the same thing. A witness is a person, a document is a piece of paper.
So what I hear you saying is you're going to vote against this. You don't want the proof that we have chain of custody documentation. So I encourage you to vote for this. We should be able to.
I'm not going to vote to do something that we don't have the power to do.
How can we make a friendly amendment, Commissioner Osterkamp, so that you will vote yes on this? Because it sounds like you want to, so that we can get chain of custody documentation. How would you word this motion?
What is the motion on the floor?
The motion is to get chain of custody documentation from the counties, from Dropbox and USPS that is on the form that the chief elections officer prescribed. And to prove, and we're going to compare that to the number of ballots that were reported counted. So the only legal way to get a ballot into the system is to put it in a Dropbox or a post office. But somehow we're getting more ballots in the signature verification than we collected. And we want to see the documentation showing the collections that prove that the ballots came through the system.
The item on the agenda now is the legislative issues. You can.
And this is a legislative issue because it's not being followed.
You can craft this into a motion that evaluates operations of elections and report to the legislature. What are we going to report to the legislature?
We're going to send them this documentation that proves the election has been conducted correctly.
So that's the letter that I'm going to sign that sends to the legislature. And what's that going to say again, Ralph?
We're going to subpoena the documentation for the collection.
Subpoena documentation, you can subpoena people. Like you can subpoena the clerk.
Okay, well,
So
I don't
can
think
we
we have
do
to.
that? Can we subpoena the staff?
You can subpoena almost anybody, I think, if you have if you can show reason and purpose. Mr. Osterkamp, you might know better than I.
Well, yeah, I mean, it has to have a good faith basis, and it needs to be part of an investigation. I mean, this is and a hearing. I mean, it says any board or commission which is by law authorized or required to hold hearings for the purpose of receiving evidence shall have the following powers. So this isn't something that can just be done willy-nilly. It needs to be part of an actual hearing on that particular issue. So we would set something separate for this.
We can start with that.
And we can't go into it with false premises. It needs to be based on actual documentation and evidence. So, you know, if we want to do that, we have the ability to have a hearing. But
so you
we're not
can't
going to
go
have
on
a hearing today.
So you can't go on a fishing expedition.
Correct.
You need to have substance behind your subpoena to have the person in front of you, correct?
Correct. So,
and some of these issues may be worthy of investigation and subpoenaing the clerks.
So Chair, I'd like to bring up what Mr. Osterkamp said, receiving evidence. Okay, that's getting documents. So we can do a subpoena to receive evidence. So
That's not what it says. And that's not what I said.
it says for the purpose of receiving evidence.
It says any board which is by law authorized or required to hold hearings for the purpose of receiving evidence shall have the following powers: to subpoena witnesses. So in other words, the hearing permits the board to receive evidence. The hearing also permits the board to subpoena witnesses, but the hearing and the statute do not by their terms permit the board to subpoena documents.
So
Unless
Chair,
the
can I make-
Attorney General has
One at a
information
time,
separate from me.
and please address the chair. Yes, Dylan.
So Chair, let's start with that base, right? I like to make a motion for the commission to investigate, again, ballot chain of custody.
I believe there's a motion on the floor
That was my motion.
to investigate the chain of custody,
Ballot chain of custody documentation.
ballot chain of
I
custody.
second that motion.
Been moved and seconded that, and is that for an investigation or to?
Correct. That's one of the actions the commission can take is to launch an official
I understand.
investigation.
I understand that. And it's been moved and seconded that we have an investigation into the chain of custody questions that have been discussed over the last several meetings. So you're limiting it to chain of custody? I guess so. Okay. Any other discussion on an investigation into the chain of custody of the ballots?
Yeah,
Ms.
I mean,
McAdam.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, are we looking at all counties here? Are we looking at any in particular? It seems very broad. But that's the question that I had for the proposed motion.
So it appears there are 4 counties and there are questions of chain of custody among each one. Is that correct, Dylan?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
Okay, so we voted to have an investigation into the signature verification process, and that basically got killed. You guys buried it. So I want to set this up so that this does not get buried. I would like to, after this, have a concurrent motion to request the documents. And I believe we have the power to subpoena the evidence. And so I'd like to make a motion with that, and then we can sort out.
There's a motion on the floor.
So I'm.
But you can't make that after this motion.
I'm for it, but here's why. But we need to put in place a procedure that's not going to be killed. And now if.
Are you talking about the motion for an investigation?
Yes, so I'm happy to lead this investigation, and who's going to lead it? Who's going to write letters to the counties, and how are we going to hold them accountable? Because I sent out letters on the signature verification and none of the counties complied.
Let's stick to this motion first.
Okay.
Giselle, do you have the motion? Can you reread it, please?
Okay, the motion by Commissioner Andrian is to investigate ballot box chain of custody from the counties.
Any further discussion?
So the powers of the commission in this regard are to investigate and hold hearings for receiving evidence of any violations and complaints. So I would vote against the motion as worded, because investigating chain of custody implies that it's just a fishing expedition. I'm not aware of violations or complaints in that regard.
That's correct.
So let me.
There have been numerous complaints.
Wait, excuse me. Dylan, name one complaint that you're referring to.
Sure, we've had so many testimonies from the public that have come forth about it.
That's not a formal complaint.
And I'm sure we can go back in our emails into all the correspondence that we've filed as well. I mean, to me, this is part of us bearing something very important.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak, Chair. Yes, Chair. So specifically, we want the chain of custody from the collections of the ballot box and the post office. That's one piece. And then we want the chain of custody from the counting center to the, from the county buildings to the counting center. Those are the two big things that we do not have proper chain of custody from. So it's not a fishing expedition. We, right now, with the numbers that have been reported, there are less ballots collected than votes reported. So we just need to see where those ballots came from, because the only possible way for a ballot to get into the system legally is to go through a drop box or a post office. And this question on the elections website says that, how do you ensure elections officials don't throw away ballots or add ballots? Ballots are always transported and processed in the presence of official observers. Official observers serve as the eyes and ears of the public and monitor that elections officials are maintaining security and integrity of elections. Additionally, the number of ballots received and counted are reconciled at the end of each day to ensure there are no discrepancies. I have not seen one reconciliation report at all. And now this is an allegation. I've been brought this up. I've sent this out. And I don't know why we wouldn't want to see this. Under HAR 250, all of this is supposed to be public information. So we're just asking for what should be public information. There's nothing that should, this is basic information.
I tend to agree that it has to be, an investigation has to be specific to a complaint or a violation of the law. If you can document in a request for an investigation, the specific allegation of wrongdoing, or like Mr. Osterkamp said, the specifics, if we're to hold an investigation, it should be specific to a violation that's identified and brought to the commission. I think it's worthy of investigation, but I think it's specific, has to be specific from a specific complaint or allegation. Mr. Osterkamp, would you expand on what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's akin to a court choosing to raise its own issues, which a court cannot do. We would be raising the issue without anyone coming to us on the basis of an actual violation or complaint and asking us to investigate and hold a hearing. And so what we would be doing would be backwards and not in compliance with our powers. We would be exceeding our powers.
I'd like to be recognized, Chair.
Yes, Ralph.
Under section 3-170-9, investigations. After reviewing the complaint and response, the Elections Commission may decide to investigate the complaint. On its own motion, the Elections Commission may authorize an investigation without a pending complaint.
Thank you, Ralph.
So it gives us the authority on our own motion to authorize an investigation without a pending complaint. So that's our answer right there. 3-170-9.
Other discussion.
So that, I think that alleviates Mr. Oster.
Other discussion.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
so testimonies that have been presented by the public cannot be construed as basis for complaints?
It's not a formal complaint or violation. It's their opinion.
Okay, let me repeat this again.
Wait, Ralph. Anita, are you done?
Even the ones that have testified that they have individually witnessed discrepancies.
That's a matter
There
of
have been some
observation
in
and
the
opinion
public that have-
also.
I'm sorry.
That's a matter of opinion also and perception.
Can we ask Mr. Leong to look at section 3170?
Excuse me, Ralph. Excuse me, Ralph. Excuse me, Ralph. Would you like to speak? Would you like the floor, Ralph?
Yes, please.
Please, you have it.
Could Mr. Leong please read to us section 3-170-9 investigations, subparagraph B?
Yep, I'm here. No, it's the same thing that you read. Be on its own motion, the Elections Commission may authorize an investigation without a pending complaint.
So that settles it. We can do this.
Well, it settles, well, the motion's on the floor. For me to be comfortable with it, I would want specificity as Mr. Osterkamp is requesting. You're not just investigating the election or the performance of the clerk. You're investigating, are you investigating specifically the reporting of the counting of the ballots as is required from the chief election officer? He's responsible for ballots and counting.
Chair, could I be recognized?
In a minute. Mr. Nago, would you like to comment on any of this?
No, Chair, I don't have anything to add to this.
Okay, thank you. Ralph.
So under HAR 3-177-453, the ballots that are collected at the drop box and the post office are supposed to be accounted for on forms prescribed by the chief elections officer.
So is that act what you want to investigate?
We want those forms.
Okay, so for the investigation for the purpose of obtaining the chain of custody forms from each of the county would be an amendment to Dylan's overall motion.
I'd like to add one more to that, please.
Okay.
And the transfer of ballots from the counties to the state.
Thank you.
Chair, may I be recognized as well?
In a minute. Giselle, could you read the motion, please?
Okay, if I'm correct, we're still on the motion to investigate ballot box chain of custody from the counties.
That's correct.
There's been a friendly amendment to it with what Ralph just said.
Sorry,
Giselle,
Commissioner Kushner, can you repeat the amendment?
Well, we're not talking about the amendment. We're talking about the original motion. I need to know what original motion is on the floor.
The original motion is to investigate ballot box chain of custody from the counties.
Thank you. Ralph?
So we want to amend the motion. So I move to amend the motion to request the ballot box collections chain of custody and the United States Postal Collections chain of custody documentation as prescribed by 3-177-453 in accordance with that law, and the transfer of ballots from the counties to the state. Those forms are already filled out.
So
they were required.
You just asked for accountability of the United States Postal Service.
No, I'm asking for the collections when the county receives the ballots from the Postal Service. They record the number of ballots that they are receiving from the Postal Service. That's what I'm asking for.
Okay. So you're limiting the motion to investigate the chain of custody to the actual transfer of ballots from the pickup at the United States Postal Service through the process.
No, it's from the post office to the county's office. That's
and I thought the whole chain of custody thing was what you wanted investigated with the numbers.
was, it's two pieces here. One, the pickup from the drop box and the post office, and it goes to the county's office. The second one is when it's transferred from the county's office to the state office.
Is there a second to that motion? That amendment, I'm sorry.
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion on this motion, on the amendment to the motion to investigate.
Yes, Chair, can I be recognized, please?
Certainly.
So again, going back to HAR 3-170-9, it's an administrative rule, not a statute. That's the rule that states, quote, on its own motion, the Elections Commission may authorize an investigation without a pending complaint. Two things about that. One is every administrative rule has to be authorized by a statute. It has to have a statute as its actual authorization. So if we look at the bottom of that rule, it says authorization, HRS 11-7.5. I would respectfully suggest that this rule is not authorized by HRS 11-7.5. It goes beyond what the statute allows it to do. And I don't believe that the commission has the authority on its own motion to authorize an investigation without a pending complaint. I would also say it's simply beyond the spirit of what it is we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to be going on fishing expeditions. We're supposed to receive complaints and then look into things.
Thank you. Any additional discussion on the amendment?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
In interpreting a rule or a statute, you're just supposed to use the plain language first and to read this and hear the words and then to try to say that we can't do this. It's obvious that he's running deflection for this. The people have asked us to do this. Let's do this, please.
I would, if I could be recognized.
Please.
The people have not asked us to do this. This is something that a couple of board members want to do. So I don't think that we should pretend that there has been a vote of the population stating that we should be doing this. Again, we are going beyond, we would be going beyond what the intention is of this commission and going into a fishing expedition.
Any other discussion? Mr. Young?
Yeah, I just have two concerns. First of all, the testimony has actually been very, very compelling and interesting. All the meetings I've been to so far. I don't agree with all of it, but I've learned a lot from, and people's passions are quite evident. My concern, though, is that in several cases, the allegations, etc., that we're kind of talking about, potential wrongdoings in the chain of custody, for example, have not been documented. To your point, Chair Curtis, have not, I don't see any time date stamps on any of these locations. But more importantly, I'm fearful that when we investigate, two things might happen. Number one, this could string out for this investigation, could string out for a long, long time. We're not talking something that's going to take a couple of weeks. That's number one. So my concern is that the length of this, and we're going to continue this discussion. But two, I would hate to have fingers pointed at individuals, to include Scott Nago, but lieutenants underneath him and observers and voting workers, etc., post office employees, without some way to respond. Because I think we do the people, we're throwing around that phrase, we're doing the people wrong by saying that this has not been done correctly. Okay, specifics for me are real important. And my fear is that we're going to start pointing fingers back and forth. It's going to be a shouting match outside of our commission here, and that also doesn't solve anything. So, Ralph, I commend you for this, this proposal, but my fear is it's going to get, if we vote for it, it's going to get out of hand, and that's my fear. So I yield.
Thank you. Ms. McAdam, you have your hand up.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I guess to sort of to reiterate what previous commissioners have said, I think if we have a wide investigation, even with the amendments proposed, I think it sets us up for failure because it is too large. And I think in my experience, any investigations succeed when they're specific. And I think if we had a specific violation, we could consider. And I think would give us all some time to think about if we could table it for the next meeting, that we could look at it and consider it and narrow that down to a specific instance rather than something that's going to cover all the counties and which is so wide ranging and potentially have no end or goal in sight.
Thank you, Ms. McAdam.
Here. What is the purpose of chain of custody documentation?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Ralph.
Oh, no, I'm just
I'm
asking.
not disagreeing with that.
What is
I'm
the
saying
purpose?
that the broadness of what we're talking about, I think, could become too broad and too engulfing of all of our collective energies. That's all. That's what I'm saying. So,
Okay,
I
let me
please,
have the floor.
Please keep your comments addressing the chair.
Let me have the.
And Ralph, you have the floor.
So my question is, what is the purpose of chain of custody? The chain of custody is already supposed to be kept. The documents should be in the possession of the counties. The last entry would have been on November 6th when the ballots were transported from the state counting service after signature verification from the counties to the state. All of this documentation is supposed to be bundled up somewhere. And it's just a matter of emailing it over to us. And then we go through it. It should be tallied on a sheet. It shows where each ballot came from. On island of Kauai, they go to Kalihao Neighborhood Center. They document how many ballots are there. They put a seal on it. They put a time, a date, and they go to the next one. All of that's documented. They have that information. And I'm just saying, send it to us. And you guys are making it like there's this great big thing of getting this documents, and it's not. All this a great big thing is that you don't want to expose that this is not being done. And if it's being done, prove it to us. And that's what the public's asking. Prove it to us, give us this documentation. And then we go, yeah, it's there. But when you don't let us look at it, you're asking for issues. You're asking for problems by not allowing us to see it. So I encourage everybody to vote for this. It's already supposed to be done. There's no special effort. All they have to do is grab the file and hit send and send it over to us. It's pretty simple.
Thank you. Giselle, could you read the amendment again, please?
Okay, I apologize. The amendment was a little lengthy, but this is what I got from it. Amendment to request ballot box chain of custody documenting USPS collections from the counties to the state.
No, not correct.
It was Dylan's mo.
Maybe you want it. No, it was his
amendment.
amendment. Why don't you put it in the chat, Ralph?
I can't do the chat, so it was.
Wasn't it your amendment, Dylan?
It was my amendment.
Okay, so
It's
correct Giselle's verbiage.
Yeah, slowly, please.
The
amendment is
want to get the chain of custody documentation for the collections in accordance with HAR 3-177-453 for the collections from the Postal Service and the drop boxes back to the county office. That's one item. The second item is the chain of custody documentation in accordance with 3-177-453, transferring the ballots from the county to the state.
You're asking for the chain of custody documentation of that.
Yes, that is prescribed by 3-177-453.
Is there any further discussion? Would ask for a roll call on this amendment.
Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kawada,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
No.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
No.
Commissioner Papadimou is excused, Commissioner Young.
No.
Sorry, what was that?
No.
Okay, Chair Curtis.
No. So back to the main motion on the floor. Could you read that, please, Giselle?
Okay, so the main motion was to investigate ballot box chain of custody from the counties.
Discussion. Would ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kawada,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
Ms. McAdam, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, no.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
No.
Commissioner Papadimou is excused, Commissioner Young,
No.
Chair Curtis.
No. Back to item 8 on the agenda, biannual evaluation of operations of elections and report to the legislature. Are there any other issues that you want that to bring to the attention of the legislature, including some of these conflicting and complicated laws that are hard to conform with? What laws do you want us to address? Ask the legislature to address.
Chain of custody, 3-177-453.
Okay. The chain of custody will be included in my letter to the legislature requesting their consideration. Are there any other issues you'd like to bring to the legislature?
Yes, Chair. Signature verification.
Okay,
There is no accountability in signature verification.
I understand that. We'll bring
so
that to the
that needs to-
legislature.
So accountability and no observers are allowed. There's no logs. There's nothing for us to audit. It's not auditable, and observers are not allowed to witness the process.
Okay, what else do we need to bring to the legislature?
11-96.
What do you want to change with that?
Well, the records from the elections are supposed to be prima facie evidence. And right now, the records that we have gotten from the counties, the court has ruled that it is not prima facie evidence. So
Okay, how did the legislature address that?
I don't know, but it's who's going to address it?
We're talking about changing laws in the legislature.
Right.
What can the legislature do?
This is 11-96. That
So
right
what-
now, the counties are not providing prima facie evidence. So somehow there needs to be teeth in it or something. But the court has declared that the evidence of the ballot collections is not prima facie evidence. And in this 11-96, it says it's supposed to be.
Okay, we can draw that attention to the legislature. Anything else for the legislature?
Yes, Chair, 11-98,
What one's that?
HRS 11-98.
Okay,
Okay, all of the forms used in the elections are supposed to be uniform in character.
Okay.
And it's not. The chain of custody documentation from the counties is different.
okay. Any other issues for the ledge?
Yes, Chair.
Okay,
1642. Using ballot images for audits. ballot images can be duplicated or manipulated. And that's what's happening right now. Ballots are being duplicated, and we have no accountability for the pieces of paper.
Thank you. Other issues for the ledge?
Yes. HRS 11-153.
Okay.
More or fewer ballots. The court has said that counting an envelope is not how you record an overage or an underage. Well, with our new system, that is the only way you can count an overage or underage. And that needs to be addressed because the state opens the envelopes and counts the ballots. And according to the definition and according to the Supreme Court, that an overage only can be declared by counting ballots compared to ballots. And that's all done in the possession of the state. And there is no independent verification of what they're telling us. They just spit out a report and there's no documentation. There's nothing to audit.
Thank you. Any other issues to take to the ledge?
1643.
Mr. Young.
Yeah, just very quickly, having worked over there for a little while, this is for everybody. Is it possible through Chair Curtis's signature that we could ask for some kind of bipartisan task force to actually draft out the very things that Commissioner Kushner and others are asking for? I ask that because in terms of the key is bipartisan, because if we send this, Chair Curtis, to the legislature, while it will go to both houses and both major parties, the Democrats are going to take over everything. They're going to address everything. The Senate majority and Senate minority research offices, plural, could each put one person from each one of those research groups, maybe with 2 or 3 of us, to kind of hammer out some of the details. Anyway, that's a suggestion for the group. That's all.
I'm happy to be on that group.
To the legislative. I'm sure you would, Ralph, and I'm sure we'd be happy to have you on it. But that was a recommendation that to the ledge to establish a bipartisan committee to resolve some of these election issues that have developed because of mail-in voting, essentially. Yeah?
Yes.
I'd be happy to do that. Some of these issues do need addressed. Many of them are legislative issues that they need to be aware of.
Yeah.
If they're not already.
Correct.
Is there any other discussion on items for the ledge?
11-155.
Okay, 11-155. What's that?
It's how you certify an election.
Okay.
And it says that we're supposed to look at all these documents in order to certify an election. And I don't know how the election's being certified if we can't get these documents. It all should be public in accordance with HAR 3-177250. And all of this is being withheld from the public. We can't compare anything. So can we make a motion to set up a bipartisan committee?
To recommend, ours is a recommendation commission, but yes, I would entertain that motion from Mr. Young. How would you establish a bipartisan committee or recommend the ledge do that? Could you make a motion, please, Mr. Young, to put
spot here. The commission requests the legislature create a bipartisan task force
and have the commissioners participate
to resolve these
resolve
these election issues.
Yeah, to resolve, election issues composed of members of the legislature,
Commissioners and
research staff,
legislators.
and commission members.
Is there a second?
Yes, Chair. Second.
Discussion. Could you read that motion again, please, Giselle, so we all know it?
Okay, the motion is to create a bipartisan task force to resolve election issues composed of members of the legislature and commission members.
It's to recommend to the legislature.
Recommend.
And I believe the chair is to recommend.
Yeah, over the chair's signature, yes.
Yeah.
On behalf of the commission,
Yes.
based on this vote. I'd be happy to. Could you reread it again, please, Giselle?
Okay, motion to create a bipartisan task force to resolve election issues to recommend to the legislator.
So I think the recommend is at the beginning of that. I think the motion is to recommend to the legislature establishing a bipartisan committee to resolve the conflicts in the election laws,
Okay,
or something like that. Mr. Young,
Yeah, that you're correct. It's not committee, task force. Task force is rather
a task force.
temporary.
Recommend to the ledge to form a bipartisan task force to address the issues that have been raised in the election commission. Yeah,
was raised in. Okay,
you
so
got-
I have motion to recommend to the legislator to create a bipartisan task force to resolve election issues raised in the election commission.
and that was seconded. And discussion.
Who was it seconded by?
I think Ralph
I did.
Yeah, I think it was Mr. Kushney.
Got it, thank you.
and Miss McAdam. You had some comments?
Yeah, just sorry. Just would it help the legislature? I have problems always saying this. The legislature, if we were more specific as to the issues in particular, if we could highlight some of them. I know Ralph has a list there, but that might aid them if they, rather than just a general election issues raised in the commission wording. That's my.
They might come back with that question. I'm amenable to that.
Yeah, and that's essentially the motion, is that these conflicts that we've identified need to be resolved, and I think a bipartisan task force would be the most expeditious way of accomplishing that. The ledge controls most of this. Another discussion.
Chair. So I think
Yes,
Ms. McAdam said we should include some specific issues in the motion so that the legislature, maybe it's all of these issues that Commissioner Kushney has brought up to you prior to this motion.
I think with us in the task force, we can bring that, but to be specific and limiting, I wouldn't want to do that. I'd want the task force to address all the issues that have been raised at our meetings and to help us resolve some of them. To where I don't want to limit the issues. I think there's more issues than we have time to identify, and that this task force may find others as well. But there have been enough identified by this commission to give them something to chew on. Anita, does that satisfy you?
Maybe just to give them a jump start to include some issues already
Yeah.
brought to our attention.
Including the issues that Ralph gave me the numbers of, and I copied them down. There are others that we can add to it, but these will get a task force started if one is formed. But the
All right.
ledge needs to do something about this, and we need to ask them, in my opinion. Other discussion? Ms. McAdam, you have your hand up.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to take that down.
Okay. Ralph, you're up. You had a additional comment?
No, I'm ready to vote on this.
Okay. Would ask for a roll call?
Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kawada,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdam,
Yes.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
No.
Commissioner Popley moves excused, Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Curtis.
Yes. So that concludes my agenda. Unless you have,
I've got one more.
unless you have other issues for the ledge.
I've got one more motion, Chair. I would like to make a motion to ask the counties for their chain of custody documentation.
We're on the ledge part of the agenda.
With the laws that are being followed. Mr. Maine, I move to ask the counties for their chain of custody documentation. Not to do an investigation, just to have them send it to us so that you guys can look at it and see what it's all about.
It's fair.
Is there a second?
Yep, second, Chair.
Discussion.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Ralph.
So this has already been collected. We're just asking the counties to send it over to us. And then I would like all the commissioners to look it over, and it'll specifically tell each Dropbox what time it was collected, all of the specifics. That gets rolled up into a summary spreadsheet. And then it'll just give you the metrics on how the ballots were collected. And it's a simple ask. The counties already have it. It's required by law. They just need to send it to us. So I hope that everybody's for this motion. The people really want us to get our hands on something that we can see. And I just ask everybody, please, this is really simple. When you tell them you can't look at it, it creates distrust. So please vote for this motion. Thank you.
Other discussion? Would I ask for a roll call?
Commissioner Andrian,
Yes.
Commissioner Aquino,
Yes.
Commissioner Kushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kuwata,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdam,
Yes.
Commissioner Osterkamp,
No.
Commissioner Popley moves excused, Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Curtis.
Yes. So we'll ask the counties for their chain of custody. What was that, Ralph? I'm sorry.
Their chain of custody documentation in accordance with HAO 3-177453.
Okay. Is there anything else for the ledge? In that case, I'll adjourn the meeting. That's the end of my agenda. Thanks for coming. Thanks for your time. And thanks for the testimony, positive and negative. Aloha.